Sir, you're charged with especially aggravated kidnapping. You're also charged with aggravated assault, and you're charged with theft of a firearm worth less than $2,500.
You're talking about stuff that is not relevant.
Hello and welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the Recovery Addict, and boy do I have a case for you today.
Why is the dog chewing on this guy?
I think they have got the wrong guy there.
Got the wrong guy. The dog was biting him.
He roughing him up quite a bit. There's a lawsuit.
Perfect. You look good.
9 out of 10 judges prefer watching the Recovery Addict live stream in their court.
The fireworks are not done.
Now we're getting commentary on the kid. Dahil Anglican for his servant Latino.
Is that correct?
It's literally not true.
Oh, for crumb's sake. I didn't ask you to interrupt me.
Good morning, welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the Recovery Addict. And I'm a little bit late. Apologize. I'm a tiny bit late. Welcome one and all. Good to have you here. Thank you for being here. Good morning. Good Thursday morning. Good podcast Thursday morning. We'll talk about that in just a minute. A big welcome, of course, to Choco, who says, hi, first in chat. Congratulations, Choco. You, my friend, were the first person in chat. And for that, we will punish you. Yes, we're going to punish your good deed and sentence you to internet ownership for the rest of the day, or at least until we go live again this afternoon after lunch. So good luck, good riddance, and I appreciate you, man. This goes on your permanent record. Thank you very much. All right, we have just moments before court begins. We're going to take you there. You're not going to miss a thing. But I did have a bit of an announcement. I was looking back on what we've done on the channel, and it has occurred to me that we have now sung Happy Birthday every morning for the live stream for almost 19 months. And doing the math on that means everybody's been sung to at least once. So starting today, no more birthday songs. We'll just say happy birthday, and that's it. No, just kidding. It's Josh's birthday, one of our mods, and I was just giving him a hard time. He's so excited to be sung to. We're going to sing to him. Of course we'll sing to him. That's Josh, I'm just giving you a hard time. Happy birthday, Josh. Oh, my goodness. All right, we will sing happy birthday to you were being mean. I did that for Josh. Josh and I get along really well. Birthday. Josh is amazing. We love him. He's like, okay, I quit. No 7 days notice. So Josh is one of our great mods. We only have great mods. So grateful for him and what he contributes to the channel. And today we get to celebrate his birthday, which is great. All right, let's do the birthday thing first, because honestly, we've only got about 8 minutes before court starts, and then we'll be. This is closing arguments in Raul Valle. Shame on me. I do apologize. So if we get the birthdays, Josh, are you in charge of the birthdays on your birthday, or did you pawn that off on somebody? My birthday was the first, but I was busy arguing with Amazon that day, says Lisa H. Oh man. Let's see if we have a birthday list to put together here. We'll give him a second. Josh was born the day Jim Morrison died. Ooh. So could he be like Jim Morrison reincarnate? That's the question. Could they be one and the same? Never been spotted together at the same time. Let's see. Forgot it's closing today. Yeah, it's gonna be incredible today. We don't want to miss this one. My birthday was the 23rd, but I was in Italy. Italy? What you doing in Italy? There's a movie that says something to that effect. Man, I've never been to Italy. Closings and maybe a verdict. Maybe. Fingers crossed. It could happen if we have a quick deliberation. Okay, I'm going to check out a couple messages first. Kelly H. kick things off by gifting a membership. Kelly, thank you so much. Thank you. And look at this. Half a year with the throwing gavel and the spicy maple bourbon pickles, which have not made nearly as many appearances as they should have lately on the channel. I'll try to remedy that. For those that don't know what spicy maple bourbon pickles are, You should. We'll talk about that sometime. Kelly, congratulations on the 6 months. Thank you for your generous, consistent support of the channel. It means the world to us. Amanda H., member for 26 months. OG says, wow, been in this relationship longer than I was with my last boyfriend. Haha, thanks for all you do, RA and mods. Kitty, member for 7 months, says, woohoo, I'll be an OG in no time. That is for sure. Kitty, love the pooch in the pick. Master Ayden is here, 17 months. Happy 4th of July, everyone. That's going to be tomorrow. Happy birthday, United States of America. 249 tomorrow. Relatively young in country years, but happy birthday. Kelly H. Sent a super chat with a mic drop. Thank you so much. Amber Jerome gifted a membership as well. Thank you all. Let's see if we can get the birthday list. Do any of the mods have the birthday list today? Oh, there goes Josh on his birthday doing it. All right, here we're going to sing to Josh Hutchins, Karen Dietrich, Smiling Thrifter Pam, Julia, Celeste, William B., Libby 3, and Austin. So everyone stand up where you are, take a deep breath, shoulders back, project your voice to the back of the room, blend your voice with your neighbor, warm up with me if you will. La 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 la. Gotta be fast, we only got 5 minutes. Or we have to pause court. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Josh Hutchins, Karen Dietrich, Smiling Thrifter Pam, and Julia. Happy birthday to you. Well, we only got through halfway through the list, but luckily we have another verse. So we'll sing to Celeste, William B., Libby, and Austin next. Here we go. Dancers, keep it going. Here we go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Julia, Celeste, William B., and Libby, and Austin. Happy birthday to you. There we go. We got everybody. I threw an extra and in there, but it's all good. Josh Hutchins, Karen Dietrich, Smiling Thrifter Pam, Julia, Celeste, William B., Libby 3, and Austin. Happy birthday. Austin's my hubby. I gotta go after this. Kaylee Rose, thank you very much. Happy birthday to your hubby. To all those that are celebrating their birthday today, thank you. This is your special day. I realize there are many wonderful days. This is your day. It's your birthday. And I realize there are a million places you could be and a million people you could have celebrated with, but you chose to be here with us. The privilege and pleasure, the honor is ours. Hopefully we can turn some of the joy we feel from being selected to celebrate with you back to you. Make your day a little more specialer. Begin by helping yourself with free pancakes at Denny's, IHOP, Village Inn, Waffle House, McDonald's, Tammy Dunlap's house, Andy's Grill, and Bob Evans. Happy birthday.
Podium testing. Podium. 1, 2, 3.
And we get a podium test for your birthday. Podium test works. There we go. I actually went by Andy's Grill the other day. And they do, in fact, serve pancakes. Hear ye. Happy birthday, everyone. Oh, drum solo coming up.
I was told console words.
You have to go full screen on that one.
There's nothing in the order that restrains you from talking to cats.
Beautiful. All right. We are back. We are back. Yesterday was a day off. Actually, it wasn't a day off. We were with the Brian Kohberger plea change hearing, which was incredible. And obviously, we're going to have some more to talk about
semantics here.
About the Brian Kohberger case, especially after the 23rd. Well, on and after the 23rd, when the judge releases the gag order. So everybody, all the parties involved in the case are now able to speak to the media. We also anticipate that some things are going to be unsealed. And some of that is just going to automatically just show up. We can just go and pull it. And some might need a FOIA request. We'll see how that goes. But as we get there, we're going to play that out and get you the information we've been seeking in that case. All right. While we take just a minute, let me just say that tonight on our podcast here on this channel, we have something called the Not Relevant Podcast. If you haven't been here before, it's worth a try once. You might say that was good. I've now checked that off the bucket list. I'll never be back. That's all right. We understand. But you might also come back every single week. This particular podcast, we have me eating these. Do you guys know what these are? Well, you can't see them because they're quite blurry. How about that? These are every flavored jelly beans, and some are clear. Look, you can see me through. Well, you can see Court through it. Through no fault of my own, and in spite of all my good behavior, I've been punished and told that I have to eat these. And because Thomas ate 22 of them last week, and some of them were downright awful, I have to eat 22 of them this week. And my kids will be selecting which ones I eat, and I will be putting them up for adoption based on which flavors they select. So I attempted to make the process a little easier, maybe by adding more beans from a more reputable manufacturer. Just the I was told that is not allowed, so these are sealed. My kids would not allow it. Thomas told me he would never speak to me again if I did that as well. So I can't rig the contest. But after it's over, I may be able to at least put some good flavors in my mouth. But in addition to that, after Thomas told me just how bad these taste and how the taste just hangs around, I ran to the store, and we'll wait for Court for just a minute. I got some tongue scrapers to get rid of the flavor. I've got some Listerine Cool Mint breath tabs. I have some Crest breath spray, and I've got a giant box of Tic Tacs, which I'm going to be using all these, probably all of them tonight, between beans most likely. But and then of course I got a couple gallons of milk because that might help as well. So bad things will ensue. That's all I can say. But are they that bad? Apple Treasure. They have flavors like earthworm and earwax and other nasty things that I'm trying not to think about. So the Listerine packs are awesome. I'm wondering if I can, like, on the front end, like, front load this and just like blast out my taste buds. Just like take the whole package of Listerine tabs at once and just burn my taste buds off so that I can't taste all the bad stuff. I'm not sure how it's going to go. Dirty socks is the worst. Oh my goodness. I don't want that one. All right. Don't do it between beans. It'll make them taste even worse, but it might stop the flavor. It's worth it. Please don't do that. Try Vicks under the nose. I've got a gallon of milk. Will milk help? Milk is like my go-to, right? I drink milk like a young cow does. You might need a bucket. Milk might make it worse, come to think of it. It might like curdle instantly. Anyway, be here tonight if you want to see me suffer immensely live. But other than that, we're going to go back to Court. A bowl of milk and jelly beans. Ooh, there's a thought. Tried those beans years ago. My son threw up in the car from the grass clipping flavored one. Grass clippings I'm okay with that. I can eat a little bit of, like greenery. Rabbit food. That's all right. It's the other things that not. What does Mrs. R.A. think of the craziness? Well, she's not trying any. I can tell you that much. And the kids have definitely spoke for all the yummy ones in the untainted package. So, yeah. Orajel first. Then maybe just coat the tongue with Orajel. It's not that bad. Thank you. Kurt, Until Law says, I heard a rumor once that beans were a musical fruit, but I cannot speak to the veracity of such loose talk. Yes, I was a scoutmaster at one point, Kurt. So beans, the magical fruit. The more you eat, the more you toot. The more you toot, the better you feel. So let's eat beans for every meal. I think it goes like that. It's something like that. Anyway, let's get ready for Court. We've got some serious things to do, and trial is one of them, particularly this one. Welsh lady, you're born on the 4th of July. Our country is 249 years old tomorrow. You are not. I can say, I know for a fact you're younger. You did miss the birthdays, but just for you, we'll do a quick Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Welsh Lady Reeds. Happy birthday to you. There you go. There you go. So in a way you missed it, but in a way you didn't. Happy birthday tomorrow. Because it is a holiday tomorrow, it's Friday, we will not be having court. I will actually be gone, maybe to the beach, and maybe with my metal detector. This is going to be awesome. I might go down to the beach with my metal detector and see if I can find some treasure.
Happy birthday. You look good.
I have not done that in a long... I almost forgot how they work. So I've got... I probably should charge that up today. I'll do that. All right. What else do we have? A couple more member messages. Yogi Kaz, member for 6 months. Look at these yellow courthouses. 6 months. Woohoo. Love the new courthouse. It looks great on you. It really does, Yogi. That's fantastic. Thank you very much for your support. Also, we've got another one that came in here just a minute ago. Would you look at that? Amber Jerome gifted a membership. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. As does the recipient, I am sure. Master Ayden says for his 17-month message, happy 4th of July, everyone. Kelly H. sent a super chat. We got that one. Thank you, Kelly. Super generous. Miss McGuire, member for 17 months. I have nothing funny or witty to say. That's great. Sometimes the truth works best. Appreciate that. And I think we got the other ones. Kitty saying OG in no time for sure. Thank you so much. Amanda H. This has been a relationship longer than my last boyfriend. Here we go.
The Honorable Judge Murphy presiding. Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning,
Your Honor.
Good morning, everyone. You may be For purposes of the record, we are here today to continue the trial in the matter of State of Connecticut versus Valle.
The mic is off.
At this point in time, I am going to ask counsel to please identify themselves for the record.
Good morning, Your Honor. Mark Drosso for the State of Connecticut.
Good morning, Your Honor. Tatiana Messina for the State of Connecticut.
Good morning, Your Honor. Kevin Smith for the defendant, Raul Valle, who's at my side.
So, the court would just like to note for the record that the court did prepare a draft jury charge, which was presented to counsel for review. Prior to closing arguments this morning, the court did have a brief informal conference with counsel regarding that particular jury charge, which will be marked as a court exhibit and put in the court file as a draft copy of the jury charge. I do usually go through each of the sections just to determine whether or not there are any questions or any changes or requests that have not been made to the charge in accordance with anything submitted by counsel. So I'm first going to start with the state and ask the state, did you have an opportunity to review the draft jury charge that was provided to counsel?
The state has had an opportunity to review the draft, Your Honor.
And let me just ask
Thank you, Drama Llama Mama.
which court exhibit this would be in terms of referencing for ID.
It would be exhibit number 3.
Court,
yes.
All right, so this is court exhibit 3 for ID. All right, and then I'll move over to the defense. Attorney Smith, have you had an opportunity or ample opportunity to review the proposed charge in this case?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. And so I'm just going to go through sort of each of these sections to make sure that the court is not missing any argument that wishes to be made on behalf of the charge.
It's just the judge's mic that's a potato this morning.
Jury in this trial. So we're going to start with the court's duty to instruct and function the court and jury counsel. Any changes or requests that you're looking for regarding those sections?
No, Your Honor. Nothing from the state.
None from the defense, Your Honor.
All right, moving on to presumption of innocence for an proof and reasonable doubt. Any changes or problems with the charge that you make today?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
None from the defense, Your Honor.
Thank you. Going forward, evidence direct and circumstantial evidence, are there any requested changes or comments that you wish to make on the record?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
Not from the defense, Your Honor.
Redacted exhibits, I know that counsel is of the opinion that there aren't any redacted full exhibits in this trial, so I will be changing that language to accommodate that concern. So it's basically going to read, if there are any exhibits that have been accepted into evidence as redacted versions of the original. Please note these redactions were made by way of agreement and the charge will continue. Is there any comment or concern regarding the first change to that section?
Not from the defense, Your Honor.
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, moving forward to credibility, any questions or comments regarding that section of the proposed charge?
No, Your Honor. Nothing from the state.
Not from the defense, Your Honor.
Witness, witness cooperation agreement. Any
Nothing.
concerns?
No concerns from the state, Your Honor.
Not from the defense, Your
All
Honor.
right, and just to confirm, those appear to be states exhibits 94 and 96 with respect to Jack Schneider and Tyler Discover respectively. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you so much. All right, testimony of police officials and expert testimony. Any questions or comments?
Nothing from the state.
Not from the defense, Your Honor.
All right, court has inserted Dr. James Gill, Dr. Ryan Joss, PA Eric Black, and Dr. Rizal Combi. Those witnesses please stand and provide opinion relative to certain conditions, certain results, and certain definitions and approaches of certain standards. So is there anyone that should be included here or anyone that you feel should not be included here?
I don't believe so, Your Honor.
Not from the defense, Your Honor.
Thank you. Defendant's testimony and proximate cause, anything on
Just
those
going over the jury
subsections?
charge, just the headings.
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
Not from the defense.
All right, specific intent, I know we went through these, but I just want to make sure that the count is right and that the court is charging with respect to the intent required to be proven by the state relative to the charges. I want to go through it. So count one, murder and manslaughter, first degree intentional as lesser included. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Count two, assault in the first degree intentional and assault in the second degree intentional as a lesser included. Correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Count three, assault in the first degree intentional and assault in the second degree intentional as lesser. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
And lastly, count four, assault in the second degree intentional. Correct?
That's correct.
Yes, Your
No
Honor.
other charge contained in any of those counts that you believe requires finding a specific intent.
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Moving forward to recklessness, any changes or comments?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor. Other than with regards to the concept of recklessness, just so the jury is aware that it is a lesser included offense to count one and not yet.
Thank you. So we did discuss that in our informal briefing on this charge.
there are lesser
and the court
includeds.
has made that change on the charge that you will get and that will be going to the jury. So it won't have an opportunity to review that again. So I just would like to go through the concept of recklessness to make sure that we are all on the same page as to the specific mindset that has to be driven by the state relative to the charges. Count one, manslaughter in the first degree reckless as a lesser included.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Count two, assault in the first degree reckless as a lesser included. And
Yes, Your Honor.
assault in the second degree reckless as a lesser included.
Yes, Your
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Count three, assault in the first degree reckless as a lesser and also assault in the second degree reckless as a lesser.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
And lastly, count four, assault in the second degree reckless as a lesser.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Evidence of intent and motive, anything under those sections you'd like to discuss?
Nothing from the
No,
state.
Your Honor.
Consciousness of guilt, has everyone had an opportunity to review the state's claims? Any concerns or questions or comments that anyone would like to make?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Identification of the defendant, any questions or concerns?
Nothing from the state.
Not from the defense.
Specific charges brought by the state, again, the court will be modifying the charge to include substitute information as opposed to just information. I will be providing additional bills and highlight, but substantively, is there anything regarding first the introduction to the specific charges that you'd like to discuss?
No, Your Honor.
Not from the defense.
And again, as to each of the four counts, when we discuss elements, even on the lesser included, I will be directing the jury as to the number of elements that must be found as well.
Sure.
So that will be added. So count one, murder, anything substantively under that count that you'd like to discuss?
Nothing from the state.
Not the defense, Your Honor.
Lesser included offense to murder, we'll start with manslaughter in the first degree, intentional, anything that you'd like to discuss substantively there.
Nothing from the state.
Not from the defense, Your Honor.
Manslaughter in the first degree, that was anything substantively you'd like to discuss there.
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
Nothing from the defense, Your Honor.
All right, and it's my understanding that those are the only two lesser included defenses the state has requested, is that correct?
Correct.
And nothing from the defense, correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Very good, thank you.
So
All right,
manslaughter is
please,
a lesser
let's move on to
included.
Count two then, assault in the first degree. Anything regarding assault in the first degree intentional that you'd like to discuss?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
Not from the defense, Your Honor.
All right, lesser included offenses to assault in the first degree intentional. We'll start with the introduction, anything there that you'd like to discuss?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
Not from the defense, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, first lesser included assault in the first degree reckless, anything substantively there?
Nothing from the state.
No, Your Honor.
Second, B, assault in the second degree intentional, anything substantively there?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
And moving on to C, then assault in the second degree reckless, anything substantively incorrect or inaccurate because of common purpose.
State sees none, Your Honor.
Not from the defense, Your Honor.
Okay. And again, I just want to add there, we did discuss it formally, but I will be instructing the jury immediately thereafter that they're going to deliberate if and only if they have found the defendant not guilty on the other respective charges. So I just want to make clear that, again, relative to count two, the only lesser included offenses that have been requested on behalf of the state include assault in the first degree reckless, assault in the second degree intentional, and assault in the second degree reckless. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And nothing from the defense.
Not from the defense, Your Honor.
All right, moving on to count three, assault in first degree intentional as to a different victim, Thomas Jr. Anything substantively under that count?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
Not from the defense, Your
And
Honor.
I will, of course, get the spelling on the victim testimony. All right, so I have the same lesser included charges on count three as I did on count two. I've heard from you on count two. Is there anything additional relative to count three that you'd like to discuss?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
Not from the defense.
All right, and the same question, same lesser included offenses. Were there any additional included offenses that the state has requested?
No, Your Honor.
And nothing from the defense.
Nothing from the defense.
Moving on to count four, assault in second degree intentional. Page 43. Is there anything substantive or any comments that you'd like to make regarding that particular count, the way that it's set?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
Nothing from the defense, Your Honor.
All right, and then we have lesser included offense, assault in second degree intentional. Only one lesser included that includes assault in second degree reckless. Anything on that?
Nothing from the state.
Not from the defense, Your Honor.
And just to be clear for the record, the state did not request any additional lesser included offense.
That's correct, Your Honor.
And nothing from the defense.
Nothing from the defense, Your Honor.
All right, moving on to self-defense, defense of others. There will be some initial direction to the jury concerning an independent and separate determination to be made as to each of those defenses as they're separate, although they're related. Aside from that, is there anything else under self-defense or defense of others that either of you would like to address with this board?
Nothing from the state.
Not from the defense, Your Honor.
All right, so I will note that I did receive, let me just go, no, let's stick to this section. I did receive state's requested charge on combat by agreement. My understanding the state was kind of
I'm going to withdraw that request charge, Your Honor.
all right, so noted on the record. Moving forward to sympathy, well, obviously as complainants to that list of people in the last sentence and persons, any changes there?
Nothing from the state.
Not from the defense, Your Honor.
Any implicit bias figures upon retiring, anything there?
Nothing from the state.
No, Your Honor.
No taking, anything there?
Nothing from the state.
Not from the defense, Your Honor.
So where it says you may only deliver the non-12 years from the jury, from there down, I do intend to add an additional subsection in closing. Any problem with that?
No objection to that.
No, Your Honor.
Thank you.
No, Your Honor.
Is there anything that the court has been requested to charge and the court has not charged that you would like to discuss?
Nothing from the state at this time, Your Honor.
Not from the defense, Your Honor.
All right, and is there anything that has been contained within the charge that either of you take objection to at this point and would request further arguments?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
So the court is wrapping up some typographical error corrections on the charge itself. The court is almost done with that. Before the court charges, you will of course have an opportunity to review that to make sure that it is in accordance with the changes that have been suggested and told to you that would be made regarding this charge. Before we begin closing arguments, would you prefer to have a completely amended jury charge? That's up to you. I'm happy to do that and provide that to you before we start closing.
The state does not require that at this time.
Defense doesn't need that, Your Honor. Thank you.
And then my last question would be, would either of you like to take a few moments to either gather exhibits or make yourselves comfortable as well, and gather your outlines for your closing arguments before we proceed forward with those closing arguments?
The state's prepared to proceed, Your Honor.
Defense is prepared to proceed, Your Honor.
All right. Is there anything else that the court needs to address prior
So agreeable.
for closing arguments?
No, Your Honor.
Not at this time, Your Honor.
All right, so that you both understand, you each do have 1 hour. The state obviously has the opportunity to break its argument into 2 sections. The state will go first, followed by the defense, and then if the state does choose to break its argument into 2 sections, the state will have an opportunity to get up and address the jury with the amount of time the state has left. Would the state be asking the court by way of the clerk to flag any timing?
Yeah, I would probably. I intend on using rebuttal time.
So
I anticipate my opening remarks to be around 20 or 25 minutes, maybe a little less. I don't know for sure, but.
So you'd like to reserve at least 30 minutes?
Yes, that would be fine.
All right, so we'll just give you a little tiny nudge as you start going over, because we all get caught up in closing arguments. So that seems to be sufficient. Was anyone seeking any additional time? If you have any additional time?
I don't think so, yes.
No, Your Honor.
Anything further?
No.
No, Your Honor, not from the defense.
All right, very good. So at this point in time, we'll go over. Thank you.
All right, let me see what we can do on this audio here. It's terrible. I don't know, are they dragging the podium around? It's so loud.
Alright, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the jury tonight. So we'll ask first to have counsel stipulate on the record the past.
The state will stipulate, Your Honor.
Defense will stipulate, Your Honor.
Alright, so before we begin, you may be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, you're now back to your closing arguments on behalf of the parties. The state will have the opening, the first argument concerning closing argument. Then the defendant will have an opportunity to also make an argument to you, and then you will hear from the state again, perhaps. It's my understanding that you will hear from the state a second time in this particular case. Now, although the state has 2 arguments, both sides get the same amount of time to present their argument to you. That time is a total of 1 hour. The state gets 2 opportunities to present to you because the state does have the burden of proof in this particular trial. So we will hear from the state, we'll hear from the defense, and then those are going to the state again. There may come a point in time where I have to interrupt defense counsel if timing is off a little bit. So please don't hold that against anyone. That's my fault. So I hate to interrupt counsel, but I might have to. All right, we'll see how the closing argument is going, and we'll decide what we're going to do relative to our next hearing. Thank you so much for your continued patience, as well as your attention to this particular trial. Lastly, I see a lot of you with your notebooks, and that's my bad. I should have had the clerk take them from you. I'm going to ask you not to take notes. I'm going to instruct you not to take notes during closing argument. And the reason that I do that is because closing arguments are not evidence. No matter what the attorneys say to you is not evidence. So you've heard the evidence that you're going to hear in this case. This is the opportunity for counsel to argue to you. So I won't have you take notes during this time. I would ask you just to pay attention to counsel, listen to their arguments, and then I'll have an opportunity to address you. Thank you so much. I would invite you to stay.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So I was actually just going to address that arguments are not evidence. This is argument, right? You've heard all the evidence that you need to hear. And at some point in time, you're going to decide this case based on what you heard in court. But I wanted to take a moment to thank each and every one of you for giving us your time. It's been 2 weeks, over 2 weeks. All of you have listened diligently. You've given your time. You've given obviously your lives outside of this court are more important. But this is a very important civic duty, and it does not go unrecognized. So we thank you very much. As the court indicated, this is my first of 2 opportunities to talk to you about this case. And in this case, there have been many witnesses who've testified. This happened 3 years ago. They provided different perspectives on what they saw, what they heard, what they did. And the majority of the witnesses were teenagers when this happened. It was a horrific event. But the main story is the same. The main story is the same. The horrific event that was etched in their minds was the same. This case is not about who did it, what happened, how it happened, when it happened, what happened. This case is about Raul Valle, the defendant, who brought a knife to 43 Laurel Glen on May 14th of 2022 and provoked a fight and stabbed 4 kids 9 times, killing 1. That's what this case is about. So what happened on May 14th of 2022? You heard testimony about this party at Lazy Brook, where it was a St. Joe's party. Kids were hanging out. They were drinking. Typical high school party. Probably not the first time there's been alcohol at a high school party, right? Not that anybody's condoning it, but it happens. So there's this party. The defendant's there with his friends. He's wearing this helmet. And in come in some Shelton High School kids, Ryan Hines and Griffin Marcinzik. And because this is a St. Joe's party, not a Shelton party, they can't come in. So the defendant and Mr. Snyder and De Silva take it upon themselves to kick them out. They steal the beer from Ryan Hines. At some point in time, it gets heated. They're arguing back and forth. And at some point, it ends out into the driveway. And when it's out into the driveway, there's this agreement. I'll fight you for my beer. So Jack and Ryan square up. And just as they're squaring up, who starts the fight? The defendant starts the fight. He sucker punches him in the back of the head. And then after he sucker punches him in the back of the head and the fight goes to the ground, he takes his helmet and uses it as a weapon and slams it into Ryan's head. You heard the defendant testify. He would have you believe that that was a push, that he pushed Ryan Hines and that he didn't hit him with the helmet. I would submit to you that if you watch that fight, you could judge for yourselves what you see in the fight. And by the way, while I'm talking about witnesses, the judge is going to give you a credibility instruction, right? You're all going to have to assess the credibility of each and every witness who testified. And if you recall during voir dire, I think I asked each and every one of you the same question. You think it's possible that somebody could get on the stand, raise their right hand, and tell the truth? And you all said yes. I also asked all of you, do you think it's entirely possible that somebody could swear to tell the truth, believe they're telling the truth, and simply be mistaken about something? And you all said, yeah, that's possible. But I also asked you, do you think it's possible if somebody could get on that stand, swear to tell the truth, and look all of you in the eye and outright lie to you? So again, when you're assessing the credibility of each and every one of the witnesses who testified, that's what you have to go through. And you have to go through what they said and how does it line up with the rest of the case, right? The defendant who took the stand is also subject to that same credibility instruction. He put his credibility in issue as soon as he took that oath. The video I would submit to you tells a very different story than what the defendant testified to a couple days ago. So after this fight, they get in Jack's car and they leave Lazy Brook and they go to Trumbull High School.
Let me see if I can fix this audio.
At some point in time, as they go to Trumbull High School, there's this basketball group chat. You heard testimony that Shelton kids were in it. You heard testimony that Ryan Hines was in it. You heard testimony that the defendant was in it. You heard the testimony that De Silva and Snyder were in it. And you also heard testimony that they wanted to fight the Shelton kids at Trumbull High School. They were there for about 20 minutes. This wasn't over. Of course, there was argument and heated emotions about what had just happened at Lazy Brook, but now they want to meet up at Trumbull High School. So what does the defendant say? The defendant tells them to slide on over to Trumbull High School multiple times in the group chat. Slide right over because they want to fight. Shelton kids don't want to go to Trumbull High School. Somebody puts an address, 43 Laurel Glen, in the group chat. Come to Laurel Glen. So they go over to Laurel Glen. The defendant would have you believe that he had no idea that they were going to fight, that they were just going to another party. I would submit to you that you need to assess whether or not that's credible during your deliberations. But in any event, you heard testimony from several witnesses that the defendant wanted to go to Lazy Brook or Laurel Glen to fight. He wanted to fight at Trumbull High School, and he wanted to fight over at Laurel Glen, and that's why they were going. And as a matter of fact, when they got to Laurel Glen, the defendant lets all the kids know that they're there. There's a few kids outside, more kids come outside, and at some point in time, Tyler Rich and his friends are outside. They're around the car in the front of his house at 43 Laurel Glen, and there's some testimony that at first it was peaceful, some testimony that it got heated, arguing back and forth, things were being thrown. You heard testimony from Ayden King. I saw Raul sitting behind Jack Snyder, who was driving. Tyler De Silva was in the front seat. The defendant even said Ayden King's his boy. And Ayden King got up here and said, I saw Raul sitting behind Jack Snyder, who was driving. Tyler De Silva was in the front seat. The defendant even said Ayden King's his boy. And Ayden King got up here and said, at some point in time, the defendant said, get your friends away from my car. I'm going to break a bottle over somebody's head. Again, all of these things going to what was his intent that night. So things are thrown at the car. The car was being shook by the Shelton kids. There's some testimony that things were being thrown back. Car takes off, drives up and down the street. Things are thrown from the car, things being thrown at the car. At some point in time, they end up at the end of the street, close to the intersection of Farmhouse Road near 36 Laurel Glen.
He's waiting for his video. It's not working. He's not thirsty. He's drinking to fill time.
Now, this is 11:40 at night. You heard testimony. This is Jack Snyder's car. The defendant's already out of the car. Tyler De Silva gets out of the car. I would submit to you that the defendant being mad, angry about what had just happened, Jack Snyder's car, happens just prior to this video starting. And that's the point when he asks him for the knife. He asked him for the knife. He said, Jack, give me the knife. Where's that knife? Give me the knife. He gets out of the car. Tyler De Silva gets out of the car. Keenan, Dimitri, Will, Mackenzie walking away. Everybody with an earshot of that conversation. You heard people testify about what they heard about the knife. How you heard Keenan Frasick. He was going insane. He was pissed off about what had just happened to the car. You heard Dimitri. He was angry about what had happened to the car. Tyler De Silva, Jack Snyder. You heard Mackenzie say, I heard somebody asking about a knife, but I don't know exactly who it was because she's walking away, right? So we know the knife comes out at that point in time. He's angry. He arms himself with a knife at that point. But then the Shelton kids come down the street after having just told them, get out of here, get the heck out of here. Now look, was it right that things were thrown at the car? 100% no. Was not right at all. Wasn't right that people were hitting the car, shaking the car, and people throwing things from the car at the kids or at the cars parked on the side of the street. That wasn't right either. But at that point in time, nobody called the police. They drove down the street. Could have called the police at that point. Could have said, hey, someone just damaged my car. I want them arrested for criminal mischief. They didn't do that. The defendant at that point in time thought it was very important to arm himself with a 3-inch bladed knife at that point. So the kids come down the street. You heard Tyler Rich, Charlie Connery, Ty Wood, Ricky Fiola, a few other kids go down the street. And yeah, there's things thrown at the car. They throw things back, right? But there's no physical altercation between the parties down the street. Because if there was going to be a physical altercation initiated by the Shelton kids, it would have happened right then and there, but it didn't. Right? Again, Tyler Rich running down the street. Get out of here. You guys got to get out of here. Now, you heard some testimony that somebody threw this can of WD-40 or PB Blaster back at Tyler Rich, and he's walking away. And at some point in time, he sees the defendant, and the defendant's walking towards him. So he sprays him to get him away. Ricky Fiola sees this. He's within a short distance to see this happening. At some point in time, Ricky Fiola approaches the defendant and has a conversation. And what did you hear him testify to? He said, listen, hey, man, it's really messed up what he did. He shouldn't have sprayed you with that stuff. But look, there's a lot of us, and there's only like 5 of you. You guys should probably just get out of here. And while he's having that conversation, what does Ricky Fiola see? Ricky Fiola sees the defendant holding a knife in his hand. Ricky Fiola turns around, walks back. The rest of the Shelton kids walk back to Tyler Rich's house. Again, no physical altercation down the road. Mackenzie Traficante is calling her sister, I need a ride home. At some point in time, Will, Dimitri, and Keenan get out of the car. And they don't want to be a part of anything. They want to ride home. They stay down the end of the street. Rides are being called. Will calls his girlfriend, come pick me up. I think you heard testimony from Mackenzie Traficante who said, no, Lito, just stay down here. Stay with me. Come home with me. That's not what he wanted to do. Because Ryan Hines, who he had just sucker punched in the head earlier that night and helmeted back at Lazy Brook.
Helmeted.
Who was now at this party. Now he wanted to go back and face those kids. But he wasn't going back just him. He was going back with a knife. Because who else goes back to a house, right? I mean, you heard testimony when he was in the car with a bunch of other people and the car was being shook and rocked and thrown at, that he was panicked, he was frightened, he was scared, he was terrified. If you're all those things, why are we not staying down the road? Why are we not waiting for Mackenzie's sisters to come pick us up? Why are we not calling somebody to come pick us up? Because he wasn't scared, terrified, panicked. It's simply not, that's not the case. He was mad, he was pissed, he was angry, and he had a knife. So they wanted to go back and go and confront those kids. Now there's some testimony that Tyler wanted to go talk about the damage, and he knows Tyler Rich, maybe he could work something out. But the bottom line is, he's the one that was going ballistic about the car. Yeah, sure, Tyler and Snyder were angry, but he's going crazy, and he's the one that arms himself with the knife. So he gets back in that car. He makes the willful decision, right, to get back in that car, armed with a knife, and go back to the very house he was told to leave. But he would have you believe he was panicked, scared, frightened, all of those things. So Jack pulls up to the 43 Laurel Glen. The defendant and Mr. De Silva get out. You've heard testimony from several witnesses that Tyler's on the left, the defendant's on the right. They move onto property. They were told to leave, so now they're trespassing. Some kids were outside. Got a little bigger when people heard, oh, people are here. You heard Tyler Rich say, I told him to get the F out of my property. The defendant walks up. Ryan Hines, Faison Teal, Tommy Connery somewhere behind them, but closer in proximity to the defendant. Ty Wood there is also there. And you heard Tyler Rich say, I was yelling at these kids, get the hell off my property. I looked out of the corner of my eye and I saw Raul cock his arm like he was going to punch Ty Wood. And that's when I just hauled off and cracked him in the face. And it was on. So I would submit to you If the defendant walked on the property, confronted those kids, and started to throw a punch or pretend like he was going to throw a punch, he was the initial aggressor in the altercation by coming back, by approaching those kids, and by cocking his arm. He was the initial aggressor. He provoked the fight and started the fight. He gets hit, it's on. All right, now I can claim self-defense. Now I can take this knife out that I have in my pocket while I'm on the ground, open it up, right? All intentional conduct, and start stabbing kids, right? You heard him testify, I was flailing my arms. I would submit to you, if you look at any of the injuries on these kids from 3 years ago, those are deliberate stab wounds. Those are not flailing slash marks. Stab wounds. So he stabs Ryan Hines 3 times. He stabs Faison Teal in the arm. Again, upper, right? Left arm here. Hines up in the chest as he's working his way down. And Tommy Connery, you heard testimony from Tommy Connery, who comes over and he's trying to push him away. And he's on the ground. The defendant's on the ground, and he comes right after him and starts stabbing him in the leg 4 times. Deliberate. Again, what was his intent?
Defendant's on the ground coming after him.
This wasn't self-defense. He went into that fight already armed. His response to this fight was unreasonable when you look at it in totality. It was a fist fight that escalated by his doing because he was the only one there with a weapon. At some point in time, the defendant goes back to the car that's waiting for him. He would have you believe he was chased. I would suggest to you that the video shows a different story. But nevertheless, he's back at the car, looks back, and wants to run back in. He purposefully runs back in with the knife. And you hear Charlie Connery yelling, "He's got a knife, he's got a knife, he's got a knife." And there's another person there yelling, "Get out of here, bro." Because again, the Shelton kids didn't want them there. There was a communication to leave. Again, all of these things could have been prevented. This is Jimmy McGrath just before he gets stabbed at the end of the fight. He's not engaging the defendant, but he would have you believe that he or somebody else was so that he can cloak himself with self-defense or defense of third parties. He had a duty to retreat and not even go after Jimmy McGrath. He was unarmed and he did nothing wrong. And even if you believe from the evidence that Jimmy was involved somewhere in the fight, somewhere, which there's been no evidence of that, but even if that's what you can infer from the video, I would submit to you that self-defense is not retaliatory. It's defensive. You can't come back and stab somebody just because you're mad. And that's exactly what happened here. He came back from the car. He ran back at people who were already, the fight was already done. Tyler Da Silva clearly in the road. The fight was over. Kids were screaming back and forth. Tyler Da Silva even said the fight was over at that point. You hear, "Get out of here, bro." And at the very end of the video, you see Jimmy McGrath step back like this to try to avoid the fight, the stab wound, the deliberate stab wound in his chest. He didn't stab him in the foot. He didn't stab him in the lower leg. He stabbed him right in the chest. What was his intent when he did that? When that happens, you hear Jimmy McGrath yell, "I've been stabbed," and he collapses. He collapses.
Yes, sir! Come on, let's do it. Get out of here,
So he unnecessarily stabs Jimmy, right? You're going to hear an instruction about intent, right? And I'm sure the defense attorney's going to get up here and argue, he didn't wake up that morning, want to kill anybody or stab anybody. It's not what intent's about. Intent can be formed in an instant. It can be formed within a moment. I would submit to you at the beginning of that fight that was not on video, as soon as he got hit, he informed the intent, the specific intent to stab people and cause serious physical injury, right? He went back to the car, And he performed the same intent when he turned around and saw Jimmy. I'm going to stab this kid and get out of here. Why else would you stab him in the heart? You stab him right in the chest, piercing his heart. After he gets back to the car, he tells you that, or Snyder indicates, he gets back in the car and he says, I just stabbed like 4 kids. So he knew how many kids he stabbed. He knew how many kids he stabbed. But he knew he stabbed kids. He got to understand here, I don't know if I stabbed anybody. Right? We heard that testimony. I don't know if I stabbed. I was the only one with the knife, but he couldn't even say it. But he said it that night. He knew he stabbed kids that night. So we know he did it. They go back down the road. No, before we get there, they take off. De Silva jumps in the car. They take off. They take a left. They go down Adams Drive. They're at the cul-de-sac. He says, "Stop the car," and throws the knife into the woods. Why? Consciousness of guilt. You'll hear an instruction about consciousness of guilt. Why are we getting rid of the weapon? Right? Gets back in the car. Go, go, go. They go back down to 36 Laurel Glen. Mackenzie's sister's there. He tells Jack and Tyler, "I'm going home with Mackenzie." Jumps in the car with Mackenzie, and the cars leave the area. Mackenzie drops off Keenan and Dimitri, and then they subsequently drop off the defendant at his house. Mackenzie was mad, right? She told you, I was pissed. I didn't want to be there. I was mad at him. They were going there to fight. I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be involved in any of that. They were all going there to fight that night. But after the defendant gets dropped off, you hear about the text messages that go back and forth between Mackenzie, who was his then girlfriend, and Raul. And he's saying things like, I can't text anything. I wasn't there. You know I wasn't there. Nothing is happening. Don't text me. I'm going to Florida. I didn't do anything. That was text messaging. They didn't want to put anything in writing. You also hear that he spoke to Tyler De Silva on the phone. And when he spoke to Tyler De Silva on the phone, he says, dude, I fucked up. I'm sorry. I don't know what to do. Because he knew what he was doing that night, and now he's having buyer's remorse. So again, what was his intent, right? You guys are really going to be able to examine what his intent was. And the judge is going to give you an instruction such as, there's no particular length of time necessary for the defendant to have formed the intent. Intent can be formed in an instant. It can be created in a moment. Intent may be, and usually is, inferred from the circumstances of the crime, since no witness can come into court and testify that they looked into a defendant's mind and saw what his intention was. You can look at the number of wounds inflicted, the location of those wounds on each person's body, the type of instrument used to cause those wounds, and his conduct during all of this. I would submit you could even look at the conduct from Lazy Brook. What was his conduct during that fight, and then for what his intent was later on that night. In this case, the state contends that there were 9 stab wounds inflicted by this defendant on 4 different individuals. They were stab wounds, not slashes. I would suggest to you that a person who stabs multiple people multiple times in areas of the body that would cause serious physical injury and death intended to cause those serious physical injuries and death. There's no other rational conclusion. So that's what this case is about. The defendant was enraged about what had happened earlier. He armed himself and he returned to a house to face those kids with the intent to stab somebody. He could have waited down the street. They could have called the cops. He didn't have to go back. He did. He intentionally went back. It doesn't make sense when someone says, I was very scared, frightened, and panicked, to go put yourself back in that situation. It makes 0 sense. And because of his conduct, 3 people are going to have to live with scars for the rest of their lives, both mentally and physically. And James McGrath lost his life unnecessarily. And the ripple effects that's caused his family. The credible evidence in this case shows that on that day, he intentionally caused physical injury to Faison Teal. He caused that injury by stabbing him in the upper arm with a dangerous instrument. With regards to Tommy Connery, the credible evidence shows that he intentionally caused serious physical injury to Tommy Connery. He specifically intended to cause that injury by stabbing him 4 times in the upper leg, causing deep stab wounds. You heard testimony from his doctor. She was concerned about compartment syndrome and him losing his leg. deep stab wounds. I mean, deep stab wounds. These are not flailing slash marks. These are deep stab wounds. Again, the manner in which the wounds are the wounds are inflicted. It's not corroborative of slash marks. And he did that with a dangerous instrument. With regards to Ryan Hines, he intentionally caused serious physical injury to Ryan Hines. He had the specific intent to cause that injury by stabbing him 3 times in the upper torso, causing a collapsed lung and other injuries to his lower abdomen and hip area. And he did that again with the dangerous instrument. And with regards to Jimmy McGrath, he formed the specific intent to kill Jimmy McGrath at the moment he came back from that car, turned to him, and plunged the knife into his heart. He didn't slash at Jimmy McGrath. He plunged the knife into his heart, through his rib cage, and through his heart, and the poor kid bled to death right there on the front lawn.
It's used about 25 minutes so far. I'm not sure if he's crying or he's trying to cry. Or lost his place.
You know, the judge is going to give you an instruction on sympathy. You need to file that instruction. And I apologize for getting a little choked up here, because I have a son as well.
Objection.
And I can't imagine
Objection.
what it feels like to have that happen. And I hope no one else ever has to. I hope no one else has to go through this ever. It's terrible. I apologize for taking a moment. But again, the judge is going to give you an instruction on sympathy, so please follow that instruction on sympathy.
Yeah, please disregard the act I'm presenting
But
right
we are
now.
confident that after you review all
We'll
this
keep
evidence,
presenting it.
you will find the state has proved each and every element of the charge beyond reasonable doubt. You'll find that the defendant intentionally caused the death of Jimmy McGrath, intentionally caused assault in the first degree to both Ryan Hines and Tommy Connery, and intentionally caused physical injury to Faison Tail with a dangerous instrument. We're confident after you review all the evidence, you'll determine this was not self-defense. He provoked this fight. He was the initial aggressor, and he had a duty to retreat, and he should have. The state urges you at this time, well, after you deliberate the evidence, we urge you that you find the defendant guilty of all the crimes charged in the information. The defense will now have an opportunity to speak with you, and when he's finished, I'll come back and speak with you again. Thank you.
Used about half an hour there. I think that was highly inappropriate to say I have a son and I'm getting emotional and because of this. And I'd hate for this to happen to any of you or any of you to go through the same scenario. That was not cool.
Good morning, everyone. Y'all are probably tired of seeing me come up here and set up with all my stuff, so I'll just get right into it. This might be a hard case because it involves young people. It might be difficult because it involves young people, right? But it is not a complicated case. It is a case about the most basic right that any of us have, which is the right to defend ourselves when we're faced with people that are intent on doing us serious physical harm. It could be as much as death, serious disfigurement, and all the other things you're going to hear about in that instruction. You've heard from the state here telling you, I guess, that Valle is a criminal mastermind who came over there with the plan to be able to use all of this so that now I can claim self-defense. You heard Mr. Valle get on the stand. Mr. Valle, a criminal mastermind, can put together a plan like that? And back home, we'd say, son, bless your heart, but that was mighty stupid. There was a whole lot of stupid to go around that night. There was a fire that got lit earlier in the night, and it started with all that drinking that was going on. And nobody there to say, what are we doing? How do we come into all of this? That's the first fire that was lit. And there were a lot more along the way. But again, not a complicated case. Mr. Valle took the stand, he talked to you, he didn't have to do that. Mr. Valle used a 3-inch pocket knife that Jack Snyder gave him, that Jack Snyder brought, that Mr. Valle didn't even know existed prior to that night. Mr. Valle didn't even know existed prior to Mr. Snyder giving it to him. Where was Lito Valle seated when Jack Snyder pulled that knife out and had it on his lap? Was he in the front passenger seat? No. That was Tyler DeSilva. Lito Valle is behind him with Mackenzie Trafficante on his lap. There's no way he can see that knife in Jack Snyder's lap. And Jack Snyder's the one who told you he took that out and put it in his own lap because he was so scared about what was going on. So Lito Valle can't see that knife, doesn't know it exists. Mr. Snyder told you that there was no way that Mr. Valle could have known it was there before. He'd never brought it out. He'd never said to him, hey, I got this knife. Let's go riding over to 43 LGD and get a little payback. None of that happened. So it doesn't make any sense when Jack Snyder tells you that Lito Valle asked him for a knife that he didn't even know existed. Now I get it. Maybe some of you want to believe Jack Snyder and Tyler DeSilva. Maybe you say to yourself, gosh, those kids, nice looking kids, they get up here on the stand. Why shouldn't I believe them? Well, ask yourself, why should you believe them over Mr. Valle? Is there something about Mr. Valle and the way he came up here and took the stand and testified that tells you you should disbelieve him but believe those two? I didn't hear the state talk at all about Exhibits 94 and 96 when they were up here. Did you? What are Exhibits 94 and 96? I bet you remember. I hope it weighed heavily on your mind. Imagine if I came up here and asked you to believe witnesses. I can't even call them paid witnesses. They have something more valuable than any money they could ever be given. What is more valuable than a complete immunity agreement? Anything? Is there anything that a 18, 19, 20-year-old kid would not come up here and do or say in order to avoid any penalty whatsoever for their actions? Does that bother you? Does that disturb you? It should. Does that sound like justice for all? Does that sound like justice for some? Does that sound like equal justice to you? Going to give those two kids immunity agreements. Jack Snyder drove the car over there, gives the knife over to my client. Tyler DeSilva gets in that same car, rides over there to 43 Laurel Glen Drive, says he's going to go make peace. Listen, there was a lot of stupid going around that night. Tyler DeSilva got up here on the stand and told you, well, I thought I could go up and talk to them because I didn't have a problem with them. Maybe he did. Maybe some of you sitting here look at these kids and think of your own kids. State's attorney did. I know I did. Would any of you put your faith in something as important as this in a 16 or 17-year-old? Would you have reason to doubt that maybe they would fail to go to the grocery store and get everything that you had for them on a list? But we're going to sit here and expect these folks to give us the evidence that we need in order to convict somebody of murder who's charged with the same things that these folks could and should be charged with. They told you that. They know what they're exposed to. I went over it with them. I asked them about it. They know exactly what they're doing when they're coming in here. Jack Snyder's story doesn't make any sense. He gave him the knife because he asked for the knife that he didn't know existed? It's not just implausible. It's not just improbable. It is impossible. You don't ask for something that you don't know exists. He didn't know it existed before that moment. So we watched the Ring video. The Ring video is the 36 Laurel Glen Drive. That's Exhibit 44. You'll have that available to you. You see the car stop. You see Mackenzie get out. She's walking up ahead. Raul's already on the curb, a little ashamed, in a bad situation here. Mackenzie's obviously upset with him. She's walking down towards the curb. Tyler DeSilva gets out of the front. And then the car stops. And it's there for some time before it drives off. And Mr. Valle told you that's when Jack Snyder threw him the knife and said, just in case. Just in case what? Just in case this situation that I caused over here at 43 Laurel Glen Drive comes running down the street at you, throwing things and hollering things, and I'm about to drive off and leave you? Does that make more sense than, he was pissed off. He was the most pissed off. He was angrier than anybody else there. And he asked me for that knife that he didn't know existed. Jack Snyder has every incentive in the world to make these folks and you promises that he just can't deliver on. He's got no more powerful, there is no more powerful incentive in the whole world than what he's got. What are the terms of that agreement that he was given? He's got to come in here and testify truthfully. But who makes that determination? Who's he working for when he's under that immunity agreement? Not me. Not you. The state. And what did they all tell you, almost without fail, about what they did before they came in here? They met with the state's attorney a number of times. To do what? To get ready, to make sure that when they took that stand, they were going to testify truthfully. And I put air quotes around that, because what does truthfully mean in this instance? To those things that they had said, the things that they waited 7 months, and after they'd gotten an immunity agreement, before they were going to say anything. Now, when we were in here during jury selection, some of you said, well, there can be a lot of gray. There's more than two sides to every story. That was a bit of truth. How many sides to a story did we get? Well, a lot of people will lie. And you said that maybe you had a little bit of an idea about what had happened here. You've got way more of an idea now about what happened here. And some of you said, well, I don't expect everyone to testify truthfully. People may want to defend or protect their families. You need more than just common sense to determine credibility. Some of you said you had an experience with a kangaroo court. And you know what that's like. Don't turn this into a kangaroo court by putting any more weight into the testimony of Tyler Da Silva and Jack Snyder than what it deserves. And it doesn't deserve any more weight than the paper and the ink on which it is written, because that incentive is overwhelming. That's more than just defending your friends or your family. That's defending yourself. And some of you said, you know, if we don't follow the law, our system wouldn't work. It's not here just for one person. It's not here just for a few people. It's here for all of us. And that's right. You all take seats that were laid out for you hundreds of years ago. You come in and you take those seats. And you got to put your sympathy aside. Sympathy for the victim, sympathy for the complainant, sympathy for anybody. It's got no place here. Some of you have experience taking things through a process, doing quality control and making sure that everything has been met along the way. Use that experience here. Does this make sense? Would this pass through quality control? You know, I told you before, some of these witnesses, if not all of them, are promising more than they can deliver. Imagine if somebody tells you something that you know just can't be true. Somebody tells you they got to make a delivery and it's going to take them an hour and a half to get from here, in the middle of the day, through the city, down to DC in 3.5 hours. They're making you a promise because they want you to believe them. They know you'd be really happy if they could actually make that trip, but they can't deliver on that. That's more than what they could possibly do. That's what these witnesses are doing for you. They're telling you things that they can see that couldn't have been seen. Why are they doing that? They want to avoid consequences that Mr. Valle is now saddled with. They want to protect themselves. They want to protect their friends. And they want to protect the memory of a loved one that they lost. Now, during jury selection, I asked you all if you could be open to the idea of self-defense. And to a person, you told me that you could. Some of you said you'd had to use some self-defense before. And you said you'd be open to it and you could understand that the law allows you to use self-defense. To defend yourself, to defend loved ones. Whether or not you had experience with doing that, you said you'd be open to it. I don't know what you thought you were going to hear or what you thought self-defense looked like. Some of you had experience with it, some of you don't. But this is what self-defense looks like. It's messy. It's chaotic. It transpires quickly, and you don't have to make the best decision. That's not what the law requires. That's not. It's a higher bar than anybody could be expected to make. It requires that you make a reasonable decision, that you make a decision that you had a reason for. You watch those videos, you know there's a reason for the defense that he used. He's down on the ground. He's getting kicked, stomped, punched, and he's being given no reason to believe that that's going to stop unless he makes it stop. Nobody's saying, that's enough, guys. Everybody up. Just a few licks and then we'll let him go. That didn't happen. What did happen? People joined in the fray. There were at least 15 to 20 people out there, at a minimum. And you know that because if you watch that video, you can count them. Michael Sampieri, Sal Perry, Jacob Villalobos, Matthew Lokovich, Ryan Hines, Ty Wood, Tanner Chernowski, Tommy Connery, Charlie Connery. The list goes on. We heard about all of them. We see some of them. Alex Bernson. Some of them couldn't be identified. Those are at least the people that we can see. And Mr. Valle's down on the ground, getting kicked, punched, can't tell what's going on around him. Ryan Hines is on top of it. And Ryan Hines is punching him in the face. And Ryan Hines tells you, I didn't think he was aiming for me necessarily. Because he wasn't. He reaches in his pocket and he takes out the only thing that he's got there. The only thing at that point that he thinks is going to make them stop, because they've not given him any reason to believe that they're going to do so on their own. And maybe you're thinking to yourself, well yeah, but he said he brought a knife to a fist fight. No, he didn't bring that knife to that fist fight. He had that knife in his pocket because Jack Snyder took it out and threw it to him. And he's got some kids running down the way. He picks it up, sticks it in his pocket. Now you heard the state argue to you, well, you know, they submit that that's when he gave it to him now, is when we see it on that Ring video. Agreeing, I guess, with what Mr. Valle tells us, which is in fact, as you will recall, entirely different than what Mr. Snyder says, than what Keenan Frasick says. Snyder tells you he doesn't give him the knife until it's asked for, which again is completely ridiculous and unbelievable. But he tells you that happens after they're looking at the car. After he's dropped them off, driven down the street, leaving them there, comes back, and then everybody else who was still in the car gets out. Do you remember that? That was Jack Snyder's testimony. He didn't tell you that he threw it to him while they were right there. And Keenan Frasick, what does he describe? A mad scramble through the console, through the glove compartment. Where's that knife? Give me the fucking knife. Didn't happen. It's just unbelievable. It's not what Jack Snyder or anybody else describes. But Jack Snyder and Tyler Da Silva and all these other kids that are in that car, all these kids that had once been his friends, all these kids who haven't talked to him ever since that night, though they still remain very close with one another. Those kids all told you that Mr. Valle was the most upset of anyone there. More upset than Jack Snyder about his car. More upset than Tyler Da Silva, who was worried about the damages and how much it was going to cost. He was the most upset of anybody there. And he went into a rage. He was so angry. Gosh, I've never seen anybody that angry in my life. He goes digging through the car and this and that and the other. Why? Does that make any sense? Of course not. Not unless you start to think about what's motivating them to ostracize and distance themselves from Mr. Valle, to aggrandize what he was doing so that they can demonize it, so that they can wipe their hands of Mr. Valle. I had no idea. I don't know. He was so mad. He was so angry. I just thought we were just going to go get back in the car, and I was going to go make peace. It doesn't make any sense. Mr. Valle told you, he and Tyler DeSilva were best friends. Again, it might have been mighty stupid to get back in that car. But there was so much stupid running around that night.
Amen, brother. Amen. Preach.
And now Mr. Valle's the only one sitting here facing anything for it. Because he got in that car and had a pocket knife in his pocket. You'll recall not a single witness telling you that he got out of that car and came onto that lawn with that knife displayed. None of them saw it. He didn't get out dancing around with it, licking the blade, asking who wants a piece of this. None of that. He's not a person who carries a knife. It wasn't his knife. And mind you, one of the charges that you don't hear here is criminal trespassing. It was stupid to go on that lawn. I would agree with you. We could argue about that, and I would concede that. But it wasn't criminal under those circumstances. Those kids, for whatever their reasons were, had invited them there and wanted them on that lawn. What do they tell you? Did we hear a series of witnesses come in here and tell us all the things that they could remember so clearly, and they all could remember? I looked in the car. I might have been a long way away, but I could see Mr. Valle, and I could see Tyler DeSilva, and I could see Mackenzie Traficante, and I could see Jack Snyder. But then when it came time to tell us, well, who else was there with you? Who else went out into the front yard with you? I can't really recall. Really? But you told us that all those folks were your friends, lifelong friends, grew up with them from childhood, been over to their homes, so comfortable that when they got to the house, they could walk right up and go in through the Bilko doors. That they could go downstairs, nobody would even blink an eye, right? And when they got down there, they could see their friends, they knew who was there. But then when they all went outside, do you remember this? It was everyone got up. All of us went together. Oh, really? Who were you beside? Ooh, I can't recall that, actually, now that you mention it. Oh, okay. Well, who was at the car? Some of them told you. You know, there was a couple of us at the car, right? Maybe 3 or 4 of us at the car. And then others told you, no, there was maybe 10 of us that went to the car. And there were others that told you, no, there was more like 15 or 20 of us, and we were all around the car. Some of them told you, I didn't see anybody touch the car. I didn't see anything going on over there. It was peaceful, what I saw. And yet others told you, no, we had our hands on the car. We were rocking it. There was somebody bouncing up and down on the rear bumper. Who? I can't recall. Oh, okay, but you just went through a whole list of folks that you could tell us were there, that you saw downstairs, and you all went out together. So surely you must have seen Tyler Rich by the car. I don't recall. Oh, okay. What about Ty Wood? Where was he? I don't recall. You will have the opportunity to see all the evidence here as long as you want, as many times as you wish. Do a test. Do an experiment. Go through those witnesses. See when they can't remember things and ask yourselves if that's convenient, if it seems like they're protecting their friends. Or ask yourselves, is there something wrong with their memories? Why is it so selective? Why can they remember some things but not others? And do those things seem designed to protect their friends and themselves? Okay. Tyler Rich has got to tell you that he told Tyler DeSilva to get the fuck out of here when he sees him on his lawn. Because what he can't come in here and tell you is he didn't tell him get the fuck out of here. He wanted him on that lawn. And he wanted for his friends and him to be able to jump them and get some payback. Because if he tells you that, and if he tells the cops that, then he and his friends could get charged. Maybe they get an immunity agreement. Who knows? But they certainly have to admit to some conduct that is criminal. And they're not gonna do that. They didn't do it that night. To the extent that they came in here and told you things that were different from what they told the cops before. I tried to point that out. I asked every single one of you during jury selection, probably looking at me like, what in the world is this all about? I gave you the parking lot example. Everybody remember the parking lot example? Right? I said, what would you be interested in knowing? Right? If you came out and you saw two strangers that you'd never met before, and they're each pointing at each other and saying, he did it, and you look at your white car, remember the white car? It's got a long red gash. Remember the red gash? I said, would you be interested in knowing whether either of them drove a red car? You guys looked at me, you're kind of like, I guess. And I said, okay. Would you be interested in knowing whether or not there was any objective, other evidence that you could look at, like surveillance camera footage? He said, yes, that would be interesting to me. And I said, okay. Would you be interested in whether or not there were any eyewitnesses or people who claimed to be eyewitnesses? And you all said, yes, I think I would be interested in that. And I said, would you be further interested in knowing where those people were standing and whether or not it was possible for them to have seen what they claimed to have seen? And you all said, yes. And then I finalized that and I said, and would you be interested in seeing how all of that evidence either aligns or doesn't? And you all said, yes. I know you did, because I wouldn't have chosen you otherwise. That's your job, is to look at that evidence. It's my job, based on what you told me, to try and show you those things about the evidence that gives you some doubt about what you're being told. You're being asked to align yourself with Tyler De Silva and Jack Snyder. You're being asked to condone that testimony and accept that and say, I don't have a reasonable doubt about what those two fellas told me. Again, would you trust those two fellas knowing that that had that kind of incentive under any other circumstances where you had a decision as serious as this to make? If they were the two guys, the paid spokespeople, that were telling you about a surgery that you should get, would you want to know what sort of value they were being given to tell you that that was what you needed to do? Of course you would. Would you make a serious decision and not have a reasonable doubt about it on the basis of those two folks? Would you trust that kind of evidence under those circumstances? Of course you wouldn't. Don't start doing it now. Why would you? You'll never forgive yourself if you do that.
Ooh, careful. That's an
Don't
argument.
overlook your reasonable doubts. This system is built on reasonable doubt. It's fundamental because none of us were there. We're looking at it after the fact, and we're trying to determine, has the state proven its case beyond a reasonable doubt? You may feel inclined to try and solve the crime or somehow make things right. That's not your job. You can't fix all the ills that led up to that night. Your job is to determine whether or not you have a reasonable doubt about what happened that evening based on the evidence that you've been presented. And I think you've got more than a single reasonable doubt. You've got reasons to doubt Jack Snyder. You've got reasons to doubt Tyler De Silva. And you should heed those doubts. That's what the law tells you to do. listen to your doubt, give your doubt credence. It is, in fact, what binds us, because it's there for all of us. And if you don't follow that doubt and give it the credence that it deserves,
another one, you shouldn't do this.
You're not following the law. And you're leaving these seats in a lower place than they were there when you took them.
Don't lower your seats, folks.
Just as fundamental to our system is the presumption of innocence. And again, I know I asked every single one of you whether or not you could uphold that. Whether or not you could tell me, as you sat there and looked at Mr. Valle, that you could presume him to be innocent, despite the fact that he had been charged with these things. And again, you know, we made it kind of easy for you. This is not a case of a whodunit. This is not a case where we're claiming somebody else, who knows. No, this is not a case about who did what. With the exception, perhaps, I guess, of Faison Teal, as I think about it. I mean, there's no evidence, really, to show you that what happened to Faison, cut on his arm there, was as a result of a stab any more than Faison coming in and getting in a couple stomps, somebody pushing him from behind, and him getting a cut there. There really isn't. But it's not about who had the knife. It's about why and whether or not that was reasonable. Did he have a reason to do that? Or was he just out there to kill somebody? The state gets a lot of things wrong about this case. But it got one thing absolutely right. This is a specific intent case. But it's not specific intent to murder. You know that. You sat here through all of this. There was no specific intent to go out and murder. In order to believe that there was specific intent to murder Jimmy McGrath, you would have to believe that Mr. Valle was some sort of trained knife fighter who knew that by taking a 3-inch pocket knife and inserting it between the 6th and 7th intercostal, that he could strike directly into Mr. McGrath's heart. Now again, he's no criminal mastermind, and he's certainly no trained knife fighter. What he was a 16-year-old boy, down on the ground, getting stomped and kicked. And the numbers were overwhelming. Was it 15? Was it 20? Were they all focusing their attention on him at one point? Were they all focusing their attention on Tyler Da Silva? In that chaos, that's not a determination he could or had to make. None of us likes violence. We're not up here saying violence is okay. That's not part of the argument. But what we're saying and what the law says is that when you have a reason to believe that you need to defend yourself, that you have a right to do that and to use the force necessary. And that's what he did. And how do you know that that's what he did? Well, I guess if the state's now conceding that he got that knife during that exchange down on 36 Laurel Glen Drive, when we see those folks coming up, then the state should also have to concede the following. He had that knife in his pocket, and he didn't take it out when those folks came up. And he didn't take it out when he got sprayed in the face with WD-40 or PB Blaster. Forgive me, I have no idea what PB Blaster is. But I understand it's something that you could spray out from an aerosol can. And he didn't use it then either, despite having it right in his pocket. That's a lot of control for a person that they want you to believe is basically a homicidal maniac. He can't be both. Now, when he's down on the ground, you may recall Ryan Hines telling you, again, I didn't feel like he was aiming at you. And what else did he tell you about his position? Do you remember? You could see his arm doing this thing, but it looked like his other arm and his bicep were somehow stuck under him or pinned beneath him. Sure, because he told you he was in the fetal position down on the ground before he was able to get that knife out and start using it. And he had not just Ryan Hines on him, but all those other boys. You can see it in the video. You've got a couple different versions of that video, and I gave you Defense Exhibit B, and I'd ask you to use it, a frame by frame that you can go through as fast, as slow, focus in on a single frame, and you can see that there are two groups that peel off, that there are two folks that are wearing very similar outfits, and those outfits look very much like the lighter bottoms, dark blue top, some graphic on the back, the Jimmy McGrath, and Tommy Connery admitted to having been wearing that night. And you can see in some of those frames feet attached to those figures, kicking a figure down on the ground that is clearly not Tyler DeSilva, because he's being subjected to a separate beating over to the left. And you heard about how there were two fights that developed, that one goes down over to the right and one's going on over to the left. And think about what he's facing at that moment when he's down on the ground, because that's what self-defense requires. Not us sitting here later in the cool hindsight of this room, the ability to say, look at this, look at that. No, it's at that moment when you're 16 years old and you're down on the ground and you're facing the entire Shelton High School football team that's pissed off, and they already know about the fight at 5 Lazy Brook, right? You heard testimony. They got there and everybody was already asking them about it. One of the first persons that came up to ask Ryan Hines about it was Jimmy McGrath. Griffin Marcinzik told you, Jimmy McGrath's one of the toughest kids I knew. There was already a building fury in that basement. They didn't know about that. This bunch of idiots are in the car. They just got added to a group chat. People are talking shit to them, as they said. People that they claim they knew on social. Can we all agree that if you think you know somebody on social, you don't know that person? I think you guys have all gleaned what a Luddite I am by my inability to work this contraption over here. Knowing somebody on social,
bingo, Luddite.
You just don't know anything about that person. These were all strangers, at least to my client. Now, you know they're not all strangers to Tyler DeSilva. Right? He told you about growing up with some of them. He told you about they knew cousins and things of this nature. And here they are, texting in the group chat, talking shit, and he says he thought it would be funny to tell them to come over to Trumbull High School because they were gonna leave Trumbull High School, and if they showed up, they'd be gone. And then he told you, I saw a picture that got sent on the group chat, and I realized, oh man, I know some of these kids, and he left. He left the group chat. There's Tyler DeSilva, Jack Snyder in the front seat, and they're still going back and forth, and they're still going at it. Jack Snyder and Griffin Marcinzik are really going at it, right? Griffin Marcinzik is taking photos of the car out front saying, sitting ducks. That's what he was facing when he's down on the ground. Not you and I coming up around him and saying, what's going on here, my friend? Perhaps you should not be here right now. This appears to be a bad idea. No, that's not what that video shows. And let's talk about the existence of that video. These kids were ready. They came out with their phones going. This was gonna be a trophy. Just like a hunter hanging a head up on the wall. Let's document this. Let's record this. Not, oh gosh, we don't want this to be going on. This scene's a little too violent. Gentlemen, let the young man up. No, we're filming this thing. And we're celebrating. You remember Tanner Chanowski up on that stand? When I asked him, can you identify whose voice that is saying, yes, sir? That was me. That was you? And you're saying, yes, sir! Is that celebratory? I don't know what you mean, celebratory. I don't know. I don't know why I said it. Oh, I asked, did somebody ask you a question to which the answer was yes, sir? Is that what happened? No, I don't think so. No, I don't think so either. And again, how many times did these guys tell you something here that they admitted they hadn't told anyone before? And how often were they telling you, we were all doing something? Everybody just went. I couldn't see this and that and the other. But then on cross-examination, they would tell you, oh, well, you know, yeah, everyone was throwing something, but actually that was me that was throwing something. Everyone was screaming stuff, but actually that was me that was doing it. They wanted to minimize their involvement, generalize what they were doing, anonymize it, and scrub it clean so that they could come in here and tell you, we were just shocked to find this going on. You know that's not true. If you want to believe that, ask yourselves, why? Why do you want to believe that? Sympathy? Do you have any reason not to doubt that when they tell you that? These are people that are filming a beating, not just one. Ricky Fiola's filming too, right? We just don't have that film. Ricky Fiola's over there, he's got the camera out, he's doing this. You can see him in some of these freeze frames that they show you, right? He's like this, and you can almost kind of see when he turns over and he looks at the camera and the light shines right in his eyes, and boop, get that little red, and he's kind of like, oh shit, right? Oh, I didn't realize somebody else would be filming me filming. And then he goes, and what does he do with that? He goes and gives it right to the cops, right? No. He takes it and he shows it to some girls that were watching the thing go on. He wants to show them Tyler Da Silva getting beaten because he thought one of the girls would like seeing Tyler get, and then he kind of drifted off, right? And I asked him, can you finish that for us? And he couldn't remember what it was that he wanted to show him for at that point. There's no reason to believe that those folks were going to stop unless they were made to stop. And if you tell yourself that there's a reason to believe that they were going to stop unless they were made to stop, and if somebody back in that jury room tells you, no, he didn't have to do that. They were just going to stop and then let him up. Well, what's the reason to believe that? I'm asking, what's the reason to believe that? What's the psychology of a mob? What's the psychology of 18 to 20 boys and men? Don't forget, this is a boy at that time. Some of those folks there were men. They had already graduated. Right? They told you. Taylor Capella told us. It was mostly older kids there that night. What is the psychology of a mob? The problem with the mob is not what they do as much as what they might do. Because you don't know what they might do. So when you're down on the ground, you're getting kicked and punched and stomped. And again, we know there's at least 15 to 20 people there. It doesn't matter what these witnesses got up here and told us on the stand as far as saying, no, it was just a one-on-one, or maybe it was two of them talking with them. That's just simply unbelievable based on what we see there and what's going on that video. And we heard a little bit from some of the witnesses trying to tell us Raul's there on the lawn beside Tyler Da Silva. They're facing this big group of Shelton High football players that have started to circle them. He's not got the knife out, but he's going to pull back like he's cocked and ready to punch somebody. And who was that supposed to be? Ty Woods? You didn't hear Ty Woods tell you that, did you? No. You didn't hear a thing from Ty Woods. You heard the people that are trying to protect themselves from what they did tell you that that's why Tyler Rich just had to haul off, even though he was over here talking to Tyler Da Silva, and punch Mr. Valle, who again still had not pulled out a knife, even though he's got it in his pocket. Didn't even pull it out to say, hey, whoa guys, this is looking a little dangerous here. I think maybe you should all know, back off. No, at that point, Tyler Da Silva's still thinking he's going to make peace because he knows somebody's cousins. They know his cousins. Ricky Fiola and Tanner Chernowski are proof that everybody there knew what they were planning to do because they had their cameras ready to go. So those are the kind of folks that are kicking and stomping and punching Tyler Da Silva and Mr. Valle while they're down on the ground. And the first three folks that get stabbed, look at their wounds. Again, Faison Teal. He told you, well, I was sort of over on the side, and then I came in and I started getting in a few, what did he call them? Light stomps? Medium stomps? You ever been medium stomped? Anybody? What's a medium stomp? A stomp is a stomp. A stomp is somebody down on the ground. You don't stomp somebody who's standing up, do you? No. No more than you stab somebody in the legs unless you're down on the ground. Look at those wounds. One to the back of the leg. A couple to the front. Those are wounds that you give somebody when you're down on the ground. You don't bend down and give a couple here and a little there and let me get one in the back. It's just not how that happens. It happens fast because you're frightened and you're panicked and you're scared and you have a reason to believe that you've got to do that because nothing else is stopping them. In fact, you heard Mr. Valle. It scared him even more after he had to do that because it didn't stop. And you've got Ryan Hines. Look at his injuries. One to the ribs. What, when you're over top of him? When you're punching him in the face? Then further down on the side, and finally one down on the hip flank area. Again, what did he do? Mr. Valle was standing with him and went, one here, one here, one here, and one there. It makes no sense. It's not the way this happened. It's not the way self-defense happens.
Thank you,
Again,
Super T.
It's not complicated. Doesn't mean it's not hard. Doesn't mean it's not difficult, the decision that you have to make. But it is not complicated. It is simple. He's down on the ground. He's getting beaten. He's getting stomped. The same thing is happening to his friend. Nothing is telling them that that's going to end unless he makes it stop. So with his arm pinned behind him while he's getting stomped and kicked, boom, Ryan Hines. Tommy Connery tells you he comes over and separates them, right? And he takes his place. Takes his place over top of him, pounding him on him? No, he's over there as well, getting in his kicks. His leg gets stuck. Gets the side, the back, right? Now Ryan Hines tells you after he got stabbed, that was it. He had nothing to do with what happened to Tyler Da Silva. You know that's not true because you saw that video. You saw that green hoodie, black shorts with the white trim right over there on top of Tyler Da Silva, kicking him and stomping him with the rest of the group. Part of the state's argument here is simple. Who are you going to believe? Our witnesses or your lying eyes? Look at the video. Watch it, and you will see there are two groups here. You will see one group breaks off. That's the group that is beating on Mr. Valle, and then you can see them shove him into the road. He walks to the car. Thank goodness, at that point, Tanner Chernowski was filming. Because what do we see? Camera pans over. He's looking. What's he looking at? He's looking at where Mr. Valle is. Mr. Valle's by the car. He opens the door briefly. You see the light come on inside, the interior light. And then you see his head go just like this. Right? And we can see the side of his face. We see the profile. And you can almost hear the wheels clicking inside Tanner Chernowski's mind. It's like, what's he looking at? Now you see the camera pan again. Boom. What does that camera pan right to? Tyler De Silva on the ground, surrounded, getting pounded on by a number of kids, right? Kids that are saying, yeah, come on, get some. Who wants a piece of this? Yes, sir. That's what's going on. Any indication those kids are going to just stop that at that point? No. Not a single reason to believe that they're going to stop. They didn't stop with my client until he had used that knife. And they gave him no reason to think that they were gonna until he used that knife. That knife was a tool. It was the only tool that he had available to him to survive that night. That was the specific intent that he had. The states charge specific intent crimes. Again, they're right about specific intent, but it's not specific intent to murder. It's not specific intent to assault. It's specific intent to survive. Because he had no reason to believe they were going to just let him, that was going to stop. They were intent on pummeling him into unconsciousness at best, serious physical harm, almost certainly, and no way to know whether or not that was going to stop until he was dead. Just not. If you want to believe otherwise, ask yourself why. You're going to get an instruction on implicit bias. Is there something about the way my client looks, the way I am, that makes you think he's any less believable than those kids? That he deserves to have self-defense available to him any less than any one of us? That those kids, if they were down in that same position, wouldn't have done that exact same thing? Would it change your mind if he'd had a screwdriver with a 3-inch shaft in his pocket and that he pulled that out and used it? He'd have the same wounds, stabs and punctures. This is what self-defense looks like. Most of us have never had to think about that before, right? What does self-defense look like? I don't know. Maybe I saw it in a movie or something. There's no manual for self-defense. When you're down on the ground, there's no handbook that you can pull out and be like, page, getting stomped by group of, how many of you are here? Okay. Doesn't work like that. The law doesn't require you to go through that. Because if it did, you'd be dead. Maybe that's something that you've never thought about with the law. But I asked you guys, I know I did. Can you follow the law even if you don't like it? And I probably gave you some ridiculous example, like, have you ever heard the song, I Can't Drive 55? Right? There's a guy who doesn't like the speed limit rules. And he says he can't follow them. Well, this is a lot more serious than that, right? This is, can you follow the law even if you don't like the fact that somebody died? But the law is, you just have to make a reasonable choice. Did he have a reason to do what he did? Yes. Do you have any reason to doubt that? What is it? Because Tyler De Silva told you that the fight was over when he got back over there? You saw Tyler De Silva in that video. He didn't think the fight was over. He's in the street, hitching up his pants, facing back towards the group. And we can't see Raul at that point. Tanner's perspective is over here. We can see Jimmy McGrath a little bit on the side. And you heard Mr. Valle tell you. They were forming a semicircle. They were forming a horseshoe. And I asked all of those witnesses who watched that video, where did those kids go? Where was Charlie Connery coming from? Followed by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kids. Who were those kids that were following him? One of them was Matthew Lockridge. One of them was Jimmy McGrath. Where were they coming from? Watch that video. Use the frame by frame. Go through that part closely. You'll see exactly where they were coming from. They're coming from just having been involved with the fight with Lito that shoved him out into the grass, out into the street. That's exactly where they're coming from. Now, he didn't have time to identify anybody. He didn't know Jimmy McGrath. That's probably the tragedy, the most tragic thing of this whole thing. These kids are practically strangers, at least when it comes to Mr. Valle, as to all of them. And with a stranger, you can't know. What is that person going to do? You have to make your decisions based on the information that they're giving you at that moment. Again, what's the information that he's got? These are kids that are going to attack the car. These are kids that are going to stomp, kick, punch, gang up on, film it, record it. For what? I asked Tanner Chernowski, why are you recording this? Oh, I don't know. I just do that. And then at some point he admitted to collect memories. He thought this was going to be a memory that he wanted to keep before he knew what the tragic outcome was. But when he thought it was just a beating and an assault that was going to go on, yeah, that was a memory he wanted to collect. That's who Tanner Chernowski is. That's who these other kids were.
It's approaching the hour mark.
Now, some of you might be thinking, well, when he comes back onto the grass and he passes by Tyler De Silva, at that point, you know, I can't see any of those other kids that are there. I just see Tyler, and then I see a little bit of Jimmy. Well, you see a little bit more than that. Right? You see that hand? Remember that hand down here around the back on Jimmy? It's not his hand. It's Matt Lockovich's hand. Because they're side by side. Because they are part of a semicircle baseball. This is a group that has been acting as a group the entire time. You're telling me all of a sudden this group has decided, oh, let's split up, let's single out. No. And in fact, you can see in the video, across the way, there's another person on the other side of Mr. Valle. He's got on a dark top and there's some sort of white lettering across the top. You may remember I was trying to point that out. You're going to have that evidence. Take a look at it. And ask yourself about perspective, right? Because when we're looking at things one way, we can see it like this, and these things appear to be very distant and far apart. But if I shift over here, now it looks like something else is in front. And ask yourself, wait a second. He steps into that place. These kids are all around him. They don't just disappear. And you say, okay, well, hold on. Charlie Connery's yelling, he's got a knife, he's got a knife. These kids are all backing up, right? Makes perfect sense, right? Thank you, Charlie. You solved that one for us. I think he did, inadvertently. Do you tell somebody who's running out of a house fire, fire, fire! I gotta warn you about the fire that you're running away from. No, you don't. You warn somebody about a danger that they are running into. And that's exactly what was happening here. He's got a knife, he's got a knife. Guys, don't go rush him. You need to back up. That's who you warn. You don't call off people that are already calling themselves off. Again, that just doesn't make sense. And you don't have to believe those witnesses just because it's their friend who died. You don't. And you shouldn't. And you wouldn't under any other circumstances. Some of you have experience doing workplace investigations. You know this is way more serious. These stakes are so high. Why are you going to believe these witnesses and this evidence under circumstances like this, when you wouldn't believe these folks, knowing what you know about them, their selective memory, their efforts to minimize and generalize and anonymize, not put themselves or their friends in any danger. Lay it all on him. So your duty is to look at this situation, the circumstances that my client faced as they were at that time. It's at least 20 versus 2. It's at least that. Could have been more. Some of these folks told you, oh, well, there's people watching. They're just sitting. They're just watching. Okay. You want to believe that, there's probably nothing I can tell you or should even argue to you. These folks had sprayed WD-40 in his face. These folks, 20 versus 2. That's 40 fists, 40 feet and legs. There's nothing that says the force he uses to defend himself under those circumstances has got to be identical. Just because they have fists and feet doesn't mean he can only punch and kick back. That's not what self-defense requires. It simply requires reasonable. Is it reasonable to use a 3-inch pocket knife that you didn't bring, but that you have in your pocket because your friend gave it to you? Under those circumstances? Of course it is. Look at these wounds. Jimmy McGrath, 1 wound. That's it. He's not trying to stab him over and over and over. He steps into this situation. Look at the amount of time between the time he steps onto the grass. And again, perspective. They want to try and tell you that that kid on the far side of him is not lined up with Mr. Valle. Look at the grass underneath their feet. Valle's on the grass. That kid's on the grass too. The line of the curve goes just like this. You know about horizon and perspective? They're almost side by side, those two kids. The other kids haven't gone anywhere. It's wet. You remember me asking all these kids, is it dark, wet, rainy, misty? I don't remember. You can see it in the video. You can see rain beating on the windows of the cars. Of course it's wet. And you heard Taylor Capella tell us he came onto the grass and he slipped. He spun around. And Mr. Valle told you he got punched. Somebody swung at him. Did you see Matt Lockovich's hand on Jimmy's back? Then all of a sudden it's gone. You can infer what happened there. Matt Lockovich takes a swing at him, and Mr. Valle told you, I just swung, I put everything I had into it, I was terrified. These kids hadn't stopped before when they were stomping me and I had to use that. They weren't stopping now. Did he have a safe retreat that he could completely and safely retreat? Of course not. Last time that he had tried to get up, these kids tackled him and went down again. And here they were coming again. And we know they were coming again because we hear them being warned. He's got a knife. He's got a knife. Again, you're not telling that to somebody who's not walking towards that danger you're trying to walk them off, who's not rushing towards that person once again. Mr. McGrath is holding the edge. These are all football players, right? They know what it means to hold the edge. He's holding the edge of that horseshoe, that semicircle. He is a threat just as much as anybody else in that mob at that point. Those are the circumstances that Mr. Valle was facing. That's what you have to judge him on. And if you want to believe these kids, look, you've heard about consciousness of guilt, right? Why have we heard this evidence about consciousness of guilt? It doesn't change anything about what happened down there on the ground at that point. It's just another effort to make my client look like some sort of criminal mastermind. He knew to go out and throw the knife into the woods. Well, let's talk about that. Who told us that that's what happened? Only one person. Jack Snyder. When he's in here singing for his supper, the jailhouse keys ringing in his ear. He's trying to give you something, trying to give the state something. To believe him. Oh, but they haven't found a knife. I'll tell him he threw the knife down at the end of Adams, in the cul-de-sac. And then Chelton PD, Detective Bango tells you, oh, we went out, we looked for the knife, we couldn't find it. No knife. I guess that means Jack Snyder must be true. I guess Jack Snyder must be telling us the truth now about this. Tyler DeSilva doesn't tell you anything about that. He's in the car. It stops. Nearly hits his head on the back seat. He's screaming at Jack about something. 1 or 2 seconds later, Mr. Valle hops back in the car. Mr. Valle told you. I got out of the car. I was feeling some pain. I looked at my ribs. He didn't tell you that he had the knife or that he did something with it. He told you he lost that knife, right? And he told you he lost that knife as he was running back, trips and falls. And what's he got on his hands? You've seen it. He's got 2 big, nasty strawberries on the heels, palms of his hands, exactly like somebody would have when they fell to the asphalt. Like it looks like road rash. And he lost the knife at that point. Do you have any more reason to believe Jack Snyder about anything, let alone that? Of course not. Ask yourself, if you want to believe him, why? Why do I want to believe Jack Snyder so badly? He's not giving you any reason to believe him. The text messages. Again, here's my client, a criminal mastermind, conscious of guilt. So he's texting with his girlfriend, who's also, no, she's 17. He's 16, she's 17. They're texting back and forth. Like he's going to convince her that he wasn't there? That doesn't make any sense. He was panicked. He was still scared. He had no idea what had just happened. Look what he'd just been through. He's not going to convince her that I wasn't there. And then he goes to Florida. He's 16. He doesn't go to Florida because he's trying to get away from things and he knows that he can go down there and escape. I don't even know if you can get on a flight when you're only 16 years old. But he gets on that flight because that's what his parents told him to do. And that's what you do when you're 16. When your parents tell you we're going to Florida. It's not a mastermind move on his part. It's just trying to make him look bad. He doesn't need any help looking bad, okay? Again, bless his heart, there was a whole lot of stupid going around that night. And that's my client that I'm talking about.
Can I get a refund on this defense? Y'all, my client's stupid.
Valle is no different than any of these other kids. And if you're telling yourself for some reason that you think that he is, ask yourself why. Look at the situation all these kids were in that night. How did they get there? These kids at 43 Laurel Glen Drive were like torches. My client and his friends, they were like straw. Throw those torches in there, put them all together. There's absolutely no way to know what is going to happen as that wildfire starts to catch and goes round on the front lawn of 43 Laurel Glen Drive. But he certainly knew as he was down on the ground that folks weren't stopping with the stomping. They weren't stopping with the kicking and the punching. And so he used that knife. A tool to survive. If you're down in the bottom of a hole, dirt's being shoved on top of you, you're going to use a shovel to climb your way out. That's what he was doing that night. You have every reason to believe that.
Greetings, Mikey. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for your support. Great channel, by the way.
A little bit over, so if you wrap it up.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Overtime by about 10 minutes.
Folks, I'm not going to apologize for taking up a little bit more time. I do want to thank you for listening. I hope you will look at that evidence. I hope you will take your time with it. I hope you will all understand this is probably the most important thing you've ever been asked to do in your lives. And I will tell you that the law requires you, despite the tragic ending in this case, the law requires you to find my client not guilty. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you, Chief. Yeah. Do you guys go ahead and take a quick before we continue on with this argument?
Judge, use their potato mic to talk again.
Until 12:15. We'll come back at 12:15.
So here's where we are. Court's in recess until 12:15. We've had the closing from the prosecution, the closing from the defense, and now prosecution gets another bite at the apple. They carry the burden. By my time tracking, the prosecution used 30 minutes the first time. Defense then used an hour and 10 minutes. The prosecution may get another 40 minutes to equal, because they do get equal time, but it's just split up differently. I will say, of the two, I think the defense did a better presentation at the end. What I can't see, what I don't have any read on, is how the jury reacted. I can't tell how the jury reacted. Defense talked a lot to the jury, talked about some of the things they said in the the jury selection process and things they had brought up and experience they had, whether it was with going through processes and quality control, talking about having to use self-defense themselves. And I think he's obviously trying to connect with a lot of jurors, but the fact that he's talking about many of them might indicate that he's not connecting with any yet, as he's trying to make that connection with one or two to maybe reach a holdout. But the prosecution, as we go through his and listen to his closing argument, he basically adopted virtually everything that all of his witnesses said, or at least the beneficial parts that all of his witnesses said, while at the same time, at the beginning, saying, hey, they're kids, they're 16, they don't get everything right, but believe these bits. And defense capitalized on that a little bit and said, look, go back, check your notes. Look at all these witnesses. When did they start saying, quote, I don't recall? And they all said it. I don't recall. I don't recall. I don't recall. And it was on those times when it might make their friends look bad. It might look like somebody at the house, or the homeowner that was doing something wrong. Oh, I just don't recall that. Where'd you get the beer? Oh, I don't know. Just had 2 of them though. I don't know. Beer fairy. They don't recall. They don't recall. They don't recall. And that selective memory did, in my opinion, taint a lot of that testimony. So this is a tough case. It doesn't make it any easier. And the fact that there's a dead teenager at the end of the day, and 3 injured teenagers, and now one teenager facing basically a lifetime of prison. It's not an easy one. We will do a poll when we come back from lunch, because we want to do a poll at the end of the closing from the prosecution. We've already done a poll at the end of the evidence. The evidence came back, or the poll came back, I think, if I remember correctly, we were about 35 or 40% guilty, most on a lesser included, 12% guilty, 30-something% guilty of lesser included, and the balance was not guilty, self-defense. So, all right. This is a wild one. Give me just a minute to create the afternoon live stream, so we can portal over to it. This is part 10.2. There's a chance this case could be over today. We might be listening to the verdict music and hearing the jury's response. They're coming back at 1:15, right? I think it's 1:15. Let me give another plug also for our podcast tonight. I am going to be eating some very yucky stuff. I don't know why you would want to watch this, honestly. I'm going to be eating some very, very nasty jelly beans tonight. 22 of them. I don't know what the flavors are. My kids will be choosing, and I love them with all my heart. Right now I say that, but they want to see me suffer a little bit. So join us for the podcast. I've got to eat 22 nasty jelly beans. That's going to be 8 o'clock tonight on this channel. All right. Anything else we need to go over before we take a break? Obviously, happy birthday to those who are celebrating, including our great mod, Josh Hutchins, who's been fabulous with the pinned messages today, fabulous with the birthday stuff, and the reminder for the podcast as well. She said 12:15. What? Is this the first break of the day? In that case, we're not going anywhere. Hold up. I thought we already had our morning break. It's just a small break, not lunch. I was basically, I was buttering the bread. I was ready to go out and, pour the lemonade. Judge said 12:15. They're on the first break. Holy cow. Guys, I'm going to blame the beans. I'm blaming the beans on this one. These nasty flavored, every flavor beans. Bamboozled. Bean boozled. Birdie Bots. Nasty stuff. Okay. Oh, it doesn't even smell good. Someone is hungry. Here's what my plan, Double Agent 205, was to eat some good food before I lose my appetite for about a week. But Future says, I'm not holding my breath for a verdict today, especially if a jury is as divided as this chat. Let me go unlisted on this one. Okay. There we go. Telling the people who are already over in chat, including Greeners, who's won the internet by being first in chat, that we're going to stay here for now. All right. Let me... Okay. We'll keep the audio on there and the video on here. There we go. We don't get to see the seal right now. We're focused. We're not even focused. It's blurry. Okay, we're not going to do blurry. No verdict today. What if she'll do instructions before lunch? I think we will. I think she'll probably dismiss them. I'm not looking forward to instructions, honestly. Probably less so than any other case I've ever watched because of the judge's potato mic. It's going to be terrible to listen to. We'll do what we can to get the best audio for you, but it's going to be not good. Some in chat, like myself, are tired of slimy line prosecutors. I miss the Angels. It does seem like they're pushing hard for conviction. I wish that I could look at a prosecutor and say, there is a prosecutor who wants justice. There is a prosecutor who is in pursuit of the truth and seeking justice through the legal system. That's what I think their goal should be. And sometimes that justice is saying that not this defendant, nope, not those crimes. And sometimes that justice is this is the guy. This particular prosecutor seems quite set on a conviction, and it could be because of the pressure he's under because he gave plea deals. Those plea deals are sweetheart deals. We don't often see them, especially in a little case like this where you've got supposedly all the evidence with all the witnesses. There are questions people are asking about whether it was appropriate to give those deals, and possibly a conviction in this case might take some of the heat off of him. But recess till 12:15. Just backed up and checked. Thank you to those who checked on that. I was ready to call it a day practically. No, we're gonna stick around. Just a couple more minutes. We'll be back. For about 1 minute, we're going to be back. Jurors aren't supposed to consider immunity deals. They are supposed to consider any incentive a witness may have to testify one way or another. So I would say yes, they can most definitely consider immunity deals, and that every time there has been a deal, that has been told to the jury, that they say you need to know that there's this deal, and this deal means that if I say the right thing, I don't get prosecuted. I had to buy the internet package for our cruise yesterday so that I could watch BK sentencing. How much is the internet package on a cruise, Kelly H? Would it be cheaper to just take your own Starlink? Let's see. Starlink is right now $299 for a Starlink Mini. They give you a $100 credit, and then unlimited bandwidth is $165, and you could cancel after the first month. So basically, $350. Hopefully it's not more than $350. If you want to try Starlink, I'm a big fan of it. It's worked well when we travel. I'm going to have to use it. Got a couple things. First of all, next week, just as a heads up, the end of next week, I'm going to be up in Virginia filming a project that is not related to this channel. And so for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I'm going to be off. We won't be following any court Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And then the very last week of July into August, I will be, we're coming back from court, just 1 second. I will be on a vacation, even though my family's here. I'm going on vacation with my siblings. I'll be up in Idaho at Bear Lake, but I will be working. It's a working vacation. We'll be taking the gear. We're setting up the studio in a really fancy little cabin up there. And we'll have Starlink, and we'll be able to follow cases as we continue there. So I'll be on the road, possibly have some downtime with a plane. I think I'm on a red-eye flight, so it shouldn't affect everything, but that's coming on. All right. What's the Virginia project he's filming? Wrong answers only. This is going to be good. Chantel says, I don't think he took enough accountability nor showed enough remorse on the stand, and the judge will hold that against him. During the sentencing, go stricter on that. Are you flying from North Carolina to Virginia? No. I'm driving, and I'm taking my e-bike because we're filming, well, right answers. We're filming a period reenactment that's set in the 1800s. And I'm supposed to be in costume as well, which is like suspenders and, like, I don't know, leather pants. I don't know what I'm wearing. I have no idea. Long sleeve shirts and a hat. It's going to be unique, but I'm still taking an e-bike because I have to get all over the place. They won't allow golf carts or ATVs or anything like that. So I have to be able to zip around on this massive ranch. We're going to be roughly 50 miles outside of D.C. to the west, and on a couple thousand-acre ranch filming this. And the idea is I'm going to film it, take my Starlink. I know that's not very period, but upload everything. Mrs. R.A. is going to be in the studio here editing video because on Saturday when we come home, we have to have a finished product. The video has to be done. So it's going to be wild. It's going to be crazy. Yes, I'm sure you want pictures of me in leather pants. Not going to happen. Hey, Mrs. R.A., welcome. Do you need my phone?
I hit a pole with a car.
How bad?
Front quarter panels.
At the store?
It's still drivable.
All right. Did it damage the car? Oh, the pole?
No, it doesn't damage the car.
This is why we can't have nice things.
No.
Are you okay? I'm live right now, just heads up.
I feel like it hit question, it's clearly been hid.
Okay. Well, we'll fix it. It'll buff out. It'll buff out.
It's pushed right over the tire well. I don't know if that's going to cause problems with rubbing.
Did it hit the tire though?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. It was just a poll. So. Let's see. Brinka sent a question. Let me see what it was. As we wait for court to start again.
Back in session, the Honorable Judge Murphy presiding. Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Thank you.
I missed it.
The state needs a few extra minutes.
I'm sorry, Your Honor?
The state needs a few extra minutes on your closing.
That's fine, Your Honor.
Sorry, bumped a pole at Walmart. White car, yellow pole. Now we have the yellow dent on the white car.
Welcome back to the counsel. Thank you. Please stipulate to the return order.
State will stipulate. It's been stipulated, Your Honor.
I would invite the state back up to
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon. This is my second opportunity to address all of you. It's funny that I'm listening to counsel's argument about there was a lot of Tyler DeSilva, Jack Snyder in there. This case does not rise and fall with Tyler DeSilva and Jack Snyder. The warrant was signed, you heard from Detective Bango, on Monday the 16th. So the warrant was signed. There was enough probable cause at that point, and the investigation was still unfolding. But there was enough to arrest the defendant for what he did that night. Tyler DeSilva and Jack Snyder approached us 6 months later because they had information. And they want you to discredit everything that Tyler DeSilva and Jack Snyder said. But you have to look at it. Remember when during voir dire, I asked all of you, how do you determine credibility? Are you just going to sit there and look and hear, you listen to what they have to say, what's their demeanor? But isn't it, use your common sense? How does what one witness say, how does it marry up to other witnesses' testimony in the entire case? Tyler DeSilva and Jack Snyder are not the only people that heard the defendant ask for the knife that night. Keenan Frasick did, Demetrius Arfanis did, Mackenzie Traficante heard somebody asking for a knife while she's walking away. There are other people that heard these things. So again, whether or not you're ready to just discredit them because they have an immunity agreement with the state of Connecticut, I suggest to you, see how the information they've provided to you in this case marries up with the rest of the case. And I would agree with the defense that there was a lot of stupidity that night. Absolutely. But the bottom line is you can't bring a knife to a fist fight. You just can't. Look at the defendant's injuries days after the incident. He's not completely beat up. It's because he took the knife out immediately and started stabbing people. You would think he would have huge contusions all over his head, and he didn't even go to the hospital. I would submit if he was that badly beat up and the only way out was I had to fight for my life. But the physical evidence does not show that. And there was testimony. His arms pinned under his body. How did he get the knife out with one hand and open it up with one hand?
But the knife is a one-handed knife.
It's impossible unless you're a pro at it.
Nope.
I think the more likely thing that you can infer from what happened is that he took the knife out of his pocket while he was involved in the fight immediately and opened it up and started stabbing people. He wasn't on the ground like they would have you believe. He went after Tommy Connery. He stabbed Ryan Hines in the chest. It's just not reasonable to bring a knife to a fist fight. He went there looking for trouble. That's the bottom line. Because if he doesn't go back, none of this happens. But he went back. Imagine if he didn't go back with a knife, it would have just been a fist fight. That's all. But he went back with a weapon. You can't use more force than what's being used against you. And the defense would have you believe that being punched is deadly force. It's simply not true.
Kill you. One punch has killed people. Getting stomped might be as well.
By the way, they want you to discredit everybody that has testified in this case. This is not a whodunit, and they agree it's not a whodunit, right? He used the defense attorney used that parking lot example. I was actually thinking about this during the break. You know, the kids that testified, they saw what happened, right? It was chaotic, but they saw what happened. And when they go and they give a statement to the police, you know, were they asked who was to the right of you, who was to the left of you? Probably not. Did they know at the time? Maybe. But now it's 3 years later, right? So it's kind of like a situation where you're in a parking lot and you park your car. Now, all of you came here, you parked your car. Did you look to the right? Did you notice what color the car was next to you? Maybe some of you did. Maybe some of you didn't. But you knew you parked next to a car, right? Now imagine that happening, and then you see somebody being chased in the parking lot and getting stabbed with a knife, right? Now that's a horrific event that you've just witnessed. And you give a statement to the police, right? And you say, you're not going to say to yourself, well, I parked next to the red car. Maybe you remember that at the time, so now fast forward 3 years later, I guarantee each and every one of you would recall that horrific event happening. But if you got on the stand and I said, well, what color was the car to the right of you? You can't recall. What color was the car to the left of you? I can't recall. Do you know if there were cars next to you? Yeah, I know there were cars next to me. I just don't recall what color. So the reality is the color of the car or the person that was standing next to anybody necessarily in and around that area, in this fight, this chaotic scene, is that important in the grand scheme of things, right? Does it make a fact and evidence more or less probable? Probably not, right? Because, listen, there were a lot of people around, a lot of people were watching. There was 2 or 3 kids fighting at any given time, right? We've seen that, we've seen the video. But does it really make a difference if, you know, Taylor Capella told us she was standing next to who? Michaela Holt, right? She remembered her. Maybe there was somebody else next to her she can't recall. Tommy Connery was standing in the driveway at any given time when the car first arrived. Yeah, I knew I was there. I was talking to people. I just can't remember exactly who I was talking to. But does that really matter in the grand scheme of things when we know the car arrived at 43 Laurel Glen? There was this confrontation. The car was shook. The car was hit, and they took off. And according to people inside the car, it was scary. We didn't want to be there. We wanted to get out of there. And the defendant told you that. Again, assess his credibility. Because when he's down the street, he arms himself with a knife and comes back. If you're really that scared, why would you go back and confront 30 kids who just shook the car? I mean, that makes no sense to me. So, I mean, look, the defendant was angry. We don't know why he was angry. It's because of the car. We've heard testimony about that. It's because, you know, these kids really messed up the car and he was pissed off, and it was almost like they one-upped them. He had already had one up on Ryan Hines back on Lazy Brook because he tuned him up with the helmet after he sucker punched him from behind. But now that they disrespected Jack Snyder's car, let's go back. Let's go back. If things go sideways, guess what? I got a plan B. That was the plan. Might have been a stupid plan, but that's what happened. That's the bottom line. This is not something that happened, you know, I mean, I would say instantaneously. As soon as he gets hit, he takes the knife out. He's not waiting to get pounded on. There's no way. If he was getting pounded on the way the defense suggests he was, he would have more injuries that we would have seen after the fact. And he simply did not. And by the way, the defendant testified when he was running out of there after he stabbed McGrath in the chest, he dropped the knife. The cops looked for the knife all in that area. They couldn't find the knife. They actually walked up and down the street. They held the area. They looked for the knife the next day. No knife. And the information that Jack Snyder and Tyler DeSilva gave us, right? We didn't know where the knife came from. We knew the defendant had a knife. We didn't know how he had the knife or where it came from. Jack Snyder gave us that information. He came to us. We didn't go to him. But even if you take DeSilva and Snyder out of it, it's still the defendant going back to 43 Laurel Glen, with a knife. There were people in his car that he went to high school with that heard him ask for a knife. He went there, he got out of the car, he went in, and when he provoked the fight and instigated the fight, and it started, he took it out and started stabbing kids. Because that's what he wanted to do. And then once he was able to get out of there, he went back in for more. And they have to have you believe that, he was being approached or surrounded when he came back into the fold. He has a duty to retreat. You can't come back into a fist fight with a knife. It's just not reasonable. It's not reasonable. Even if you believe that self-defense applies to the first 3 kids that are stabbed, even if you believe that, it certainly does not apply to Mr. McGrath. Because again, self-defense is not retaliatory. It's not punitive. It's defensive. You can't do things like this and then turn around and claim self-defense. He came back from the car. Charlie yelled, "He's got a knife," and within seconds he turned around and stabbed McGrath in the chest. They want to have you believe that he slipped. He slipped. It was a purposeful stab in the chest, right? So again, when we're talking about intent, specific intent, the areas of where the wounds were inflicted, right? The number of wounds inflicted, the defendant's manner and how he conducted himself that night, both at Lazy Brook and later that night. He did not have to go back to that house. It's as simple as that. He did not have to go back. But if he was going back, he was going back with a plan B. That's as simple as that. And that conduct cannot be excused. It's a horrific event. It's terrible. It's a tragedy. That cannot happen. Because if that happens all the time, then this is a very different world we live in. And I asked him on a cross-examination, when you got out of there and you left and you went home, after you texted Mackenzie, you didn't call the cops at that point, did you? Nope. You went to Florida, right? Yep. Did you call the cops when you were in Florida? Nope. After you learned the severity of the situation, did you call the cops and tell them, hey, this is what happened, I was pummeled, I was acting in self-defense? Nope. So again, I would submit to you that, yeah, he knew what he was doing. And as soon as he stabbed those kids, and he told Jack, and they got out of there, and they went down to Adams Drive, and he got rid of the knife. Why are we getting rid of the knife? Call the cops. This just happened. It's horrific, but this is what. Got rid of the knife, got rid of the evidence. Tells his girlfriend, I wasn't there, didn't want to put anything in writing, God forbid. Because if he said, yeah, you know what, I was really getting pummeled, I had to stab those kids to get out of there, I was really fighting for my life. Didn't say that in the text, just said, nope, I wasn't there, it wasn't me, I don't know what you're talking about. You know I wasn't there. And then he told Tyler De Silva subsequent to that he messed up. He knew. He knew. The judge is going to give you, the self-defense instruction. And again, it's only justified when a person reasonably believes that such force is necessary. Reasonably believes. The first thing he didn't do is he didn't punch back, he didn't kick. He grabbed that knife. Again, you're going to hear the judge instruct that a person must not use more force than he reasonably believes is necessary. I would submit on that night he used more force than was reasonably necessary. And I submits that we've proven that beyond a reasonable doubt. We also submit that he provoked the fight. You're going to hear some disqualifiers. If you believe the state has proven the disqualifiers, one or all of them, doesn't matter. If you believe we've proven those disqualifiers beyond a reasonable doubt, then he cannot avail himself of the self-defense claim. So under provocation, you're going to hear the judge instruct that a circumstance under which a person is not justified in using any degree of physical force in self-defense against another person is when he provokes the other person to use physical force against him. The defendant must have specifically intended to provoke another into using physical force and then use force to defend himself from the ensuing force that he provoked that person to use against him. You're also going to hear about the initial aggressor. The instruction that with regards to that is another circumstance under which a person is not justified in using any degree of physical force in self-defense against another is when he is the initial aggressor in the encounter with the other person and does not both withdraw from the encounter and effectively communicate his intent to do so before using physical force. He also has a duty to retreat. You're going to be instructed that 2 conditions must be met. A complete safe retreat is available to him, and he knows he can avoid the necessity of using deadly physical force, by making a complete safe retreat. Self-defense cannot be retaliatory. It must be defensive. It's not punitive. You know, it's again, if you look at the whole, if you look at everybody's testimony, they would need you to disbelieve everybody's testimony in this case for you to not find that the state has proven this case beyond a reasonable doubt. If you looked at Jack Snyder and Tyler Silva, took them out of it, and just listened to everybody else that testified, I would submit that there is enough, more than enough evidence to determine that this defendant brought a knife to a house he shouldn't have been at, and he used that knife. That's when he should have. And after he used it, he went back in and he stabbed McGrath for no good reason. But I would submit that he formed the intent to kill him when he turned to him and lunged at him and stabbed him in the chest. You heard the testimony of the doctors, of the medical examiner. These were not slash wounds, these were puncture wounds. Purposeful puncture wounds. You know, the fight lasted about 30 seconds. You heard evidence of that, 17 of which it was video recorded. I know the defense counsel wants to point out that McGrath was involved in some of it. Unclear. You're the judges of that. But even if he was, like I said before in my opening remarks, self-defense cannot be retaliatory. You can't come back and say, well, listen, man, you were pushing me into the road. Sorry, I'm going to stab you. You can't do that. I mean, what kind of world do we live in? Yeah, it's not right that there's fistfights. It happens. But, I mean, look, Tyler DeSilva was getting beat up, but he wasn't getting completely demolished. I mean, at some point, they threw him out into the street, and they said, get out of here. It was over.
They beat him badly. 10-1. And this prosecutor's like, yeah, it happens.
And, you know, Ryan Hines, Faison Teal, Tommy Conner, they came in and they told you what their part was in the whole situation, right? Tommy Connery, I would submit, there's no self-defense claim against him. He was trying to get in there and breaking things up, pushing him away. Why did he deserve to get stabbed? And I would submit Ryan Hines, yeah. Ryan Hines said, I hit him punched him a couple times, but that's his fist. It's not a knife. If Ryan Hines had a weapon, it would be a different story. If Faison Teal had a weapon, this would be a different story. If Tommy Connery had a weapon, this would be a different story.
But that's not the law.
And if Jimmy McGrath had a weapon, this would have been a different story. But the bottom line is you can't escalate the fight. And that's exactly what the defendant did. Counsel indicated on his closing argument that Tyler Rich wanted him on the lawn. That's simply not true. And we have evidence of that down at 36 Laurel Glen. They ran down there, they're arguing back and forth, things are being thrown, but there's no physical altercation. Why would you, let's wait and see if they come back. Let's fight on the lawn. I mean, just have the fight down the street. They didn't fight down the street. That's the whole point. They wanted them out of here.
That's why they were calling them the P word for them running away. It's on the video.
Again, the judge is going to instruct you on what specific intent is. And no, there's no time, no particular time necessary, no length of time necessary to form the intent. I know that counsel, did he wake up in the morning? Yeah, I'm going to go kill somebody, stab some kids. Of course not. Of course not. But if that were the case, if we had to prove that somebody woke up in the morning saying, I'm going to go stab people or shoot people or kill people, then we would never be able to prosecute anybody, because that's a tough thing to prove. And that's the point, because it's the conduct at the time that it happens, right? That's how you can infer what his intent was. He created this specific intent when he decided to take out that knife and escalate the fight and stab people. When you heard everybody testify, I think I asked every person that testified that, when you were involved in the fight, did you have a weapon? What did you witness about the fight? Did you see anybody with weapons? Nobody had weapons there. It was a high school fight. A high school fight that the defendant escalated.
Where are the charges for that fight?
And the interesting thing is,
Prosecutor?
defense counsel didn't really spend much time on Taylor Capella and Charlie Connery. Those are the two individuals that actually saw the defendant stab McGrath, right? Turn to McGrath and lunge at him. Who was Charlie standing next to? Do you think Charlie wasn't, a lot of these kids, they were kids at the time. Their memories maybe have faded a bit. I don't recall exactly where, Ricky Fiola was at any particular time. I don't recall if I was in the basement, on top of the basement, outside the basement. But the story is the same. The horrific event that is etched in their minds forever is the same. They recall this defendant who had no right to be there come back to that house and stab 4 of their friends. This is not about protecting people. They got to understand, yeah, we were underage drinking. Yeah, there was a fight. People were punching people and it wasn't right, sure. But who were they protecting? Who were they protecting? They just came in here and told their story from their perspective. And does it mean that because one person's perspective as to where they were standing or who they were standing with and the other person doesn't remember them standing next to that person, does that mean that it's a lie, as the defense would have you believe? I would submit no. Because if you don't recall sitting next to each other a year from now, but you recall me arguing to you and the defense attorney arguing to you, that's all that matters, right? Because it's what you're perceiving here, not really in your periphery necessarily. I mean, you may remember it, but does that matter is the question. Does it matter who was standing next to you at any particular time? And the defense attorney wants you to ask yourself, does a lot of it make sense? And the thing that I would submit to you that doesn't make any sense at all is if you were truly, truly scared of the 10 to 12 to 15 to 20 kids that just rocked the car and threw stuff at the car, if you were panicked, why would you go back and want to confront them? At the end of the day, that makes zero sense. It makes zero sense unless you had some courage in you, and you had some courage in you because you had a weapon. That's the only reason that would make sense.
Everybody had 2 courages.
Because he went there. He had the intent to hurt somebody there, especially if the fight got physical. They want you to believe that the knife was the only tool that he could use to survive. I mean, he's not in the Amazon. This is a high school fight, fist fight. That wouldn't have happened, by the way, if he didn't go back.
I say charge every kid in a high school fight.
The only kids seriously injured here were Ryan, Faison, Tommy, and Jimmy. He didn't get seriously injured. You can't bring a weapon to a fist fight. You just can't do it. And to excuse this conduct would be, just wouldn't be right. Self-defense cannot be punitive. It has to be defensive. At the end of the day, that's what this case is about. And that's what they're hanging their hat on. They want you to find self-defense. Because they can't hide around the fact that the defendant brought a knife to a fist fight. That's in a nutshell, that's what it is. So, you have a tough job, absolutely, because you have to look at every element of the charge. Did the state prove it beyond a reasonable doubt? Did we prove the specific intent to cause serious physical injury with a weapon with regards to Hines and Tommy Connery? Did we prove the specific intent to cause physical injury with a weapon for Faison Teal? And did we prove that the defendant had the specific intent to kill Jimmy McGrath and cause his death? I submit to you that if you look at the conduct of the defendant, bringing that knife back, he could have left the knife in the car. He could have not taken the knife from Jack. Think about that. but he didn't do that. He brought the knife with him. If you look at that conduct and you're questioning, well, what was his intent? I mean, you have the Laserbrook fight too. Didn't need to helmet Hines, but he did. He helmeted the kid and then got up there and told you a different story. I think after you look at all the evidence in this case, cold, hard look at the facts, we're confident that you're going to find the defendant guilty of the murder of Jimmy McGrath, assault in the first degree for Ryan Hines, assault in the first degree for Tommy Connery, and assault in the second degree for Faison Teal. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
All right, as the judge gets her potato mic ready,
You have heard all the evidence
we're going
that
to do
you
a
are
poll.
going to hear immediately. You have heard closing argument. However, you have not heard the court's instructions regarding the law that you are to apply the facts that you find in this case. As such, you are not yet at a position to discuss this case with anyone, including your fellow jurors, okay? So you do obviously still remain duty bound by the conduct of your juror's oath and the rules of juror conduct, so do not discuss this case with anyone, including the juror. Remember that it's the rules that I've gone over with you day to day. We are going to move into our lunch break. After our lunch break, I'm going to come back onto the bench, do a few administrative things, and then I am going to have you brought back into the courtroom. And at that time, I will provide those instructions to you, or otherwise known as the jury charge. So enjoy your lunch, get a little bit of extra time after lunch. You'll hear the charge. You'll hear from me after the charge, and at some point in time later today, I expect that you will begin your deliberations. However, now is not the time. Okay? Thank you so much. Have a good night.
All right.
All right, the jurors are going to lunch. We are going to go to lunch as well because we already have the portal set up. We thought this was coming before the closing, but we got it. We're good. We're going to redirect to the afternoon session, which will start. She said, what, an hour and 15? Is that what I heard? Can somebody confirm that for me? If that was an hour and 15. Let's go back to public on that one. And I'll change. I need to change one more thing. Hang on. Yes, 1:15. Okay, coming back at 1:15. Good, good. Let me get the time on here right. Oh, it's already right. Cool. Nice. All right, I have a hard time with this prosecutor. Every time he talks about it, it's just a knife fight. It's just a kid. Or, sorry, it's just a fist fight. It's just a high school fight. You know, it's not. They didn't beat him badly and everything. I'm like, excuse me? Every single time somebody gets jumped in a high school fight, I think they should charge the person who started it. Hello?
Hi, it's David for the Police and Sheriff's United PAC, switching to recorded audio, okay?
No.
Hi, and thanks for holding for me.
I said no. I need a person. Yeah, okay. I don't do recorded lines, sorry. You have to listen to my response. All right, missed most of the closing arguments. Worth going back? Yes, I think it is. The prosecutor went, really heavy on the you can't bring a knife to the fist fight, and that line plays really well. The only problem is they're not charging him with carrying an illegal weapon. They're not saying it was against the law for him to have the knife. They're saying it was wrong for him to use the knife. But the law doesn't say you can't use a knife. If self-defense does apply, he could have used a gun then. Think this one clearly. If self-defense does apply, aside from the fact of age and possession of the gun, the necessary legal force, if he was scared for his life and a reasonable jury concludes that he was in fear for his life, he could have used a gun to defend himself against people with fists, against a crowd. Anyway, she said an hour and 15 minutes. Well, that's 2 o'clock. That's 2 o'clock. That's different. Hang on one second. We'll get this set up. This has to be public, publish, save that. That means we come back at 2. Woot, woot. Okay. Anyway, it's only 16. It's wrong for him to be charged as an adult. I have a hard time with the Connecticut laws for this reason. Not just that law, but some of their other laws as well. I have a very hard time with laws that say if you're scared for your life, we're going to limit what you can do to defend yourself. If I'm scared for my life, I should be able to take all reasonable steps. I realize there are countries out there that say, for instance, in England, there's a situation, laws that if they haven't changed, last I heard, if somebody comes in your house and attacks you with a rolled up newspaper, you cannot use your dinner knife to defend yourself. You can't use a baseball bat to defend yourself. You can roll up your newspaper and use that to defend yourself because you have to use equal force. These are the most ludicrous laws in the world. I think they're absurd and I cannot stand them. I believe that if somebody attacks me, they forfeited their right to life. And if my defense takes theirs, I'm justified. That's where I stand. I realize that's an extreme thing, but you have no right to threaten my life or to put me in fear of my life. Anyway, okay, we'll get on that soapbox a little bit later. Mavia says, I don't know about the prosecutor, but every single time someone has punched me with intent, that hurts. Now imagine 10 people doing it. Yeah, for sure. Now, I think all of these kids should be punished severely by their parents and grounded until they're 21, just for going to parties and drinking underage. But that's between them and their parents. All right. UK law is awful. That one I have a problem with. That's one particular I do. I don't pull up. Yeah, I'm not the one that shows up to a fight. As a matter of fact, as somebody who has been licensed to carry a concealed weapon for many years, once I met the qualifications, and by that I meant I attended the training class. I got all the. I even had a letter of recommendation from police and from law enforcement requesting me and asking that the issuing body rapidly get the license and approve it for me. I waited 1 year, 1 full year after meeting all the requirements to get issued a concealed carry permit, just so I could watch myself to make sure I would never put myself in a situation where I would have to use it. And I watched my behavior. I made sure I didn't go places where it was dangerous. I made sure I didn't, that I would trust myself then to do that. And I think there's a huge responsibility that comes with that. These kids made stupid decisions. I don't agree with those decisions, but all right. All right. Is this live? It is. Tay Marie, welcome. We're actually going to wrap up for right now because I am super hungry, and this is like my last meal before I have to eat 22 of the most nasty jelly beans known to man. These bamboozled monstrosities. Look at this. They don't even look like good colors. Those are terrible. Those are not good. They're all nasty, I think. Anyway. We're going to be eating these tonight on the podcast at 8 p.m., the Not Relevant podcast, where we take a lighthearted look at some of the things happening in the world, a little break from some of the true crime issues that we follow on a day-to-day basis. So please join us for that right here on this channel. And other than that, I think we're ready for lunch. I'm going to go out and look at the car. Scott says, look at the damage to our poor car. I'm glad you're okay, Mrs. R.A. Cars can be replaced. Poles can be sued. No, I guess, no, we can't sue the pole, but maybe we can fix it. Oh, does anyone have one of those big Band-Aids, those big magnetic Band-Aids you stick on the car? We might need one of those. All right, tonight when you go home, please hug the people you love. Smile as someone, make their day just a little bit better. And please stay safe till we go live again at 2 o'clock. So just, about an hour from now. 1 hour from now. We'll be a little bit early. I'm going to end the poll while we still can so we can see the results. Let me pull that up here. We do have a poll running about how will the jury vote, and it looks like with 709 votes in right now, we have lots more flooding in. Guilty as charged, 13%. Guilty of lesser included, 50%. Not guilty, 25%. And hung jury, just 12%. So we're going to end that so you can see that in chat. And have yourselves a great lunch. We'll see you this afternoon. Jury selection, I'm sorry, not jury selection. Jury deliberation is expected to begin and possibly finish this afternoon if they can get on the same page. You guys have a good one. Get some good food in your gut, and then we'll see you when you come back. All right, bye-bye.